Tonight is Anthony and Tony, two different people. People are always like getting their names mixed up,
Or
thinking that they're
they'll call me Anthony, but they'll also call him Anthony, which will really confuse me.
no.
I kind of prefer that think we're the same person.
Yeah.
Then he gets all the attention, and I get to be left alone.
Is that really what you want, though?
Yeah,
Wow.
I like my solitude.
All the better. All the rightful attention should be on me.
Well, the attention should be on me right now because we're about to be doing the show. So here's what we got going on, folks. We got a guest coming on. He's going to come on in about an hour. And we got a little bit of time here. Just 1 second, folks.
1:39. It's passed by so fast.
One second, folks. Get nothing right today. So, I've been struggling to eat healthy and not losing a dang thing. Eating food that tastes like cardboard, and so might need to go get my thyroid checked or something. I don't know what's going on. Didn't get to eat dinner tonight, so I'm having to text. I'm sorry, folks. Give me 1 second. Wife is asking a question. Nothing is going right today.
Yeah, we didn't get to eat either, so we're both hungry.
I think it's one of those things where, well, at least eat this.
I mean,
I ate some nuts on the way here, like
at least
trail
eat
mix.
that. Trust me, it's good.
Okay.
That's just
it'll stabilize.
We would have had time to eat if we didn't waste our time trying to get that.
Yeah, we're not
Cap.
going to talk about that.
Well,
We don't want to get too negative here.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man.
We'll make it work.
Dealing with a person that wasn't being cooperative and told us some bull crap. And so it is what it is, man. You know, my wife got upset. Everybody got upset. We're not going to worry about it right now. So folks, we do have a show tonight. Like I said, I'm sorry for all this rigmarole we're doing right now. People have been talking about how they like the stories we've been doing up to this point. And that's really not what the live stream was about, you know, because we do that on the podcast already. But it has become that, and we do have a guest tonight because we didn't have a guest on Friday. We have a guest every week, at least once a week we have a guest. And sometimes we record and we have guests on the podcast. And we're going to be doing that too. We're going to let some people fill up here. Larry, thank you for that donation, and I'm wearing the hat. We have here at the Paranormal Roundtable trying to achieve a balance between the different realms that we deal with. What I mean by that is the ghost realm, the dogman realm, the Bigfoot realm, the alien abduction realm, UFOs. We try to, it's a delicate balance. And we try to do what we can. And one of my goals, though, and I was asked this point blank by somebody who wanted to interview me. And they said, what is your overarching goal with the show, and besides growing it? I thought that was an interesting question, and I told them to destroy compartmentalization. And they're like, oh my gosh, destroy. Well, nobody's ever said that on my show before. I don't know. That's kind of harsh. That's my goal.
it's what's needed.
So maybe I'm too harsh for them. I don't know.
I mean, it's something that should have happened a long time ago. It's always been weird that people would look at different aspects of the paranormal and be like, and focus in on them. And it just never really made sense to me personally, because as you always say, paranormal means not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like common sense for you to be like, oh, this isn't normal. This goes in this box. I mean, that should be the only way you can really separate them is by like, oh, is this normal? No, then it goes in that box.
Yeah.
I mean, destruction isn't always a bad thing either. It's just a force. Or you're destroying something that is counterproductive.
Right.
Destroying something that is holding the community back, and isolating people who have experiences that don't fit a certain narrative, that they didn't ask for that narrative. They just know what they saw, know what they felt, what they heard, and they need to share it, and they need to know that there is someone out there who will listen and who will understand it and who will take into account every detail of what you as a witness have seen, and you know, who will be open-minded to you and connect you with other people who are just as open-minded.
Yeah, and it's like you said, destruction isn't a bad thing, because if you think about like a forest fire, it's horrible. It does devastating damage, but the new sprouts that come from that
That's not a good analogy right now, because of the forest fires that are going on are creating horrible damage.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's horrible damage, but if you look at, later on what can come from that,
it
that's
can.
what
It depends on
It's
burn
not
off the old
it's not the
grass.
same. Like, the analogy doesn't really fit, because like the compartmentalization is in and of itself something that is destructive and detrimental.
Yeah.
So like
I get your point. Your seeds
Yeah.
of life. But
Yeah.
yeah, but like
Uh,
if you're destroying something that is detrimental, then that's not the same as like a forest fire. But I mean, yeah,
I
get
guess
what
I
you're
wasn't
trying
really
to
comparing
get at.
it to the situation. I should have just more compared
Yeah,
it to
'cause
about
the
what
fires
you
in
said.
Canada are devastating.
Yeah,
There's-
it was bad timing.
it's not the,
But-
let's not say that. But in destruction, I see clearly. That is my deal. Like, I see clearly in the destruction. Within the destruction, there is a power that is brought to the forefront of punching aside the old and pushing the new. And that happens in cycles over and over and over again in our planet. And people don't understand that. And this person was like, "Oh, that's so harsh. Like, you want a war with everyone?" I said, "No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm not going to take people's malarkey. I can tell you that. And you guys know that. I'm not looking for it. But to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. And, well, the old guard is, they see us as a threat. Like, you're knocking at the gates. They're knocking at the door. And all of these different, I call them realms. I don't know what you would call them. All these different genres or whatever. There is something that unifies and ties these together. And I am a big supporter of, getting rid of that paradigm and shifting it, because that will bring us closer to what we're actually dealing with. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is fun. It's fun to go to Bigfoot conference and, for me, suspend reality and pretend like all that's happening is a giant monkey's running around out there. That's a fairy tale to me. That's like science fiction. That's like sitting down watching science fiction to me. Somebody asked me the other day, he goes, "Well, what qualifies you as an expert?" Says it in one of the groups. I said, never. First of all, I never seriously call myself an expert. I jokingly, but qualifications as far as like having talked to thousands of people at this point, I would say more than hundreds, probably thousands, and getting to the brass tacks, that each of these compartments has a piece of the puzzle, but each one of them has a gatekeeper, and those gatekeepers can be numerous, and they can also be dumb as a bag of crap too. Just absolutely ignorant. And even if they are people who know a lot about their particular subject, they're still very ignorant. And what I mean by that is, you wouldn't be considered ignorant if you would play together and work together and be willing to face the truth. 100%. It comes down to two things for me: their popularity, which is their fame, whatever, and then their money. That's the two things that they crave the most. So when it comes to that, don't mess with their money or their popularity, because they're wanting to be right and wanting to have all this is based on something. It's based on ego, but the ego also ties into their money. The more popular you are, the more money they get. So you have to realize, and I don't blame them all. But when you decide that what's more important to you is your fame and your fortune, that overrides the common sense and the truth, then what the heck are you doing? That's when you become an enemy. I mean, that's you because you're standing in the way. And I've been called an implacable enemy of normalcy. I say I'm an implacable enemy of complacency. They can say what they want. They can call me all kinds of kooky dude, whatever. You were just crazy, man. Whatever. I mean, the truth is the truth, and they can spin it, twist it, bend it, fold it, flip it. They can do whatever they want. They can take it to the moon. It doesn't matter. It's always going to return to where it's supposed to be. And they can do mental gymnastics around every case. I had some people, I had Carter Bouchard on the show. Carter flat out, said that when he worked for that very large organization, starts with a B, that they were throwing reports out. If it said anything about woo-woo, is the little term that they like to call, then of course there was a problem with that. They threw it out. And it turns out that most of the reports really are that way. If you only knew how many people I talk to, I don't want to exaggerate and say on the daily basis, I'd say on the weekly basis, who tell me, yeah, I used to believe that these things were all just a flesh and blood, whatever, in particular with Bigfoot, and they don't believe that way anymore. Some people are very grounded in that belief. They want to believe that wholeheartedly. But I always tell them, and some of them are my friends. I don't hate them. I just think that they're not correct. And I tell them, I said, where has this taken us? 60, 70 years of this. And where are we? Are we any closer to the truth? Because if you could sit here and tell me that we're getting closer by having a conference with all these wannabes, boots on the ground wannabes, where has it gotten us? Yeah, it's nice to hang out with other people that are like, I believe Bigfoot. Ooh. So what? Where has it gotten us? Report after report after report, and a lot of them are slanted. I'm going to say something. I had a talk with someone who says he's writing a book. I'm a nice guy, and I'll say why I think I'm a nice guy. Because I don't call these people out by their names, a lot of them. I've been doing them a favor and being nice. I don't want to start anything. He's writing a book. Well, he wanted a couple reports from me. Well, I gave them to him. I said, before you go writing whatever, can you show me what, and he literally dissected it, surgically cut out the Bigfoot away from everything else. And I told him, nope. And he says, well, it's not up to you now. It's up to the witness. Hey, witness, is that what you want in the book? No? Okay. Nope. Well, you went out and you purposely did that. I said, you went out and purposely took a story from me. I thought you had, you were made of sterner stuff. I didn't know you were going to. He said, I didn't lie. What is the truth if you take it and you dissect it and cut it into pieces? It's still the truth, right? But you're also slanting it to create a narrative, which is what? A lie?
It's called lying by omission.
It's basically what it is. And so if you're willing to do that, then that's going to be a problem. So for that, I'm a butthole. I don't work with that guy. That guy's why? Because I'm interested in what's really going on. instead of spinning some silly narrative that never made sense to begin with. I can do the same thing they do. Well, actually, I'm just going to talk about this monkey man running around out there. I'll take a question from the audience. Ooh, me. Yes, you there. Sir, I want to ask a question. So do you believe this is the missing link, or could it be a type of Neanderthal, a throwback, whatever? Yeah. Well, yeah. What are the reports of them being seen around orbs? Next question. Like, I know that there's like reports of them with orbs. Next question. You over there. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the orbs too. Okay, next question. Find somebody who doesn't want to talk about that aspect of it. Let's see what we can do here. I saw one on the side of the road, looked like it was a monkey man, big giant monkey man. Oh, yes, absolutely. These are some sort of thicka, blah, blah, blah. That's how stupid it is.
But sir, I saw in a commercial with beef jerky where Sasquatch was watching.
You saw he was physical too,
didn't you? He was eating beef jerky.
Mm-hmm. They love beef jerky. And in fact, if you have children, send them out there as a nourishment. Not the children, but the beef jerky.
Yeah.
They may take your children too, but that's just an unfortunate side effect of dealing with Cro-Magnon, Gigantopitha, Neanderthal.
Yep. And it's like, don't even just hand them a bag of beef jerky.
Hominid.
You got to tape beef jerky all over them so that they smell like it too.
And apples.
I don't know. It's sad because it feels like these cryptids that should be feared and they should be discussed in a way where we can figure out what they are instead used as mascots for money. And I mean, that's just what they are. It's like, it feels like sometimes people will take advantage of other people's like actual, terrors and turn that into making themselves money instead of looking of like, trying to maybe give closure to these people who have these horrible encounters. They instead try to take those encounters and look at those encounters as, ooh, I can use that. The scarier it is, the better. Who cares about your trauma? The scarier it is, the better for my book.
Like, how can this benefit my own interests?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the first question that'll come up.
Well, and then there's some that want to convince you that it's like the aliens and the Space Brothers. I had somebody jump down my throat the other day. They wanted to talk. I said, sure. It took us like a month to connect. So she was already a little bit aggravated. I said, look, I'm a very busy person. Her words were, you only do a few hours a week on the, like, is that what you think I do? I just sit around fiddle farting with YouTube? That was kind of disheartening. That person talked like that. And I said, look, do you want to talk about this phenomena or not? She says, oh, yeah. I didn't realize how much you had going on in your life. And really was none of their business. And I said, look, you don't watch my show, obviously. You would know. And then she says, well, I'm a very serious researcher and I'm an experiencer. I said, well, give me what you've had happen. She's like, I've been talking to the Space Federation or something. And I'm on good terms with I'm sorry. I'm on good terms with 16 different species. I said, wow. 16 different species of what? Aliens? She said, yeah. I said, okay. So I listened. Of all the people on planet Earth, she was specially chosen out of a group of 12 to transcend when she dies and go to another planet and learn and then come back and teach the rest of us primates about living. Then she proceeded to tell me how I needed to do my show from now on. Now, granted, this isn't her telling, this is the Space Brothers telling her that. Or Space, well, she called it the brother/sisterhood. They were telling her that she needed to talk to me and tell them how I needed to do my show. I was like, wow, it's pretty good. I've garnered the attention of intergalactic whatever.
Next up, Lord Xenu.
Yep, Lord Xenu in the volcano.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of taken aback by that. So what are your thoughts on Bigfoot? She's like, oh, Bigfoot is just a holographic image put out by the space people. by the Federation. It's not real. There is a species that comes from some planet, you know, I don't remember what, B612 or some crap. And then and I'm not trying to be mean, but, you know, she was very rude too. Just, she speaks and you listen kind of person, right? And she said they come from there and then they died off here. So what we're dealing with is the spirits, like we talked about. We talked about on Friday. Yeah, and so then I'm told that I'm supposed to start talking about Bigfoot in the past tense because they're all dead. Okay. Now, the day that I come out and I just start spewing some sort of vitriolic, ridiculous, then you can all just leave, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, okay? I told her, I said, maybe this is all correct, but how do I digest this to where I need to start doing this the next show? If I came out, folks, and I told you, everybody listening, you know, you need to change. Everybody needs to dye their hair aqua, okay? And you all need to start wearing silver lipstick, and you need to have 36 cents in your pocket, and you need to wear Reebok running shoes. And we need to all...
That's how you get ready for when the mothership comes.
Exactly.
Like in Mad Max and Fury Road, you got to spray that spray paint across your mouth.
The shiny and chrome.
Shiny and chrome.
Face so you can go to Valhalla. So this mothership can take you to Valhalla when it gets here.
It's hiding just behind the moon, so we can't see it right now.
Yeah.
And it moves lockstep with the moon. Because that's where Lord Xenu of the Zunification people live. I don't know. This is the kind of stuff I have to deal with. I got to tell you a story. Let me tell you this, you know. And then it comes, you have to listen to it, and you're like, you know, what's going to happen here? I like when it's typed out, and then I can kind of get an idea. Then I'll talk to the person. That's a little different. But when you take those chances, sometimes you strike gold. Sometimes you just totally crap out. And sometimes people are just so far out there, and then they become aggressive with their opinion. And if you don't listen to their opinion, then you are a poo-poo cockahead, which this person decided that that's what I was. So because I didn't have that particular... Now, I'm not going to Apers and going, you need to start talking about Bigfoot in the past tense because they're all deceased and these are their ghosts. Somebody said that my theories are crackpot, lunacy, whatever. I'm like, no, I can introduce you to someone who's got that, though, if that's what you would like. Mine's just based on, like, theory, conjecture, postulating, and basically just common sense.
Well, that's what happens when you theorize, is that you're okay with being wrong. You know, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're just searching for the truth.
Mm-hmm. You have to take into consideration other people's opinions and even those you don't agree with. I've had multiple people on the show that I will agree. I'll talk to them, be cordial. But behind closed doors, I will argue with them vehemently because I don't agree with their opinion and belief. And I'm not going to push mine on you if you don't push yours on me. But don't come at me in some group and start railing against what I believe just because you can, because you have a bunch of your homies in there. I was battling like 5 or 6 of them the other day. They were just going off on me. Well, your show's called Paranormal, so obviously all the weirdos are going to go to you and tell you their story. I'm like, you've been ignoring their stories for decades because it doesn't fit your paradigm that you've created.
What is this? Like, we've talked about it before, but what is this, like, need to be some part of, like, the mainstream group? Like, oh, you're weird for looking all that. We're the normal ones because we believe that an 8-foot-tall monkey man is running around the woods, even though after 70 years, all we have are a couple footprints and a couple videos and nothing really to show for it. I mean, where's this proof of your... side when you just don't have it. And anyone who argues for that, it's very simple to bring them down. Just say, where's your proof? Where's your proof of this? I mean, you can't be an expert in something that we have no way to prove exists. And if you want to prove that it's a man or some kind of creature just running around just naturally like that, you have to be able to bring up something more than just, oh, well, I saw it and I swear it was one, or I have a couple footprints here which prove it is one. That doesn't prove anything. It just proves that, you might have gotten a couple evidence of something being there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and another thing too, like I understand going to conferences and stuff, but you get all these people like, oh, we can't make it to your conference because I, had to go to this conference and whatever. And it's the same thing. The same thing. It's the same tired narrative just spewed out every time. Wash, rinse, repeat. I get invited to those conferences constantly, and I'm just like, no, dude. No. Can't do them. Been to like 3 of these Bigfoot conferences now, and I can't.
I'm going to be honest.
I can't do it.
I've been to a couple with you as well, and they don't seem that fun. I mean, I'm not dissing on any conferences, but they just don't seem like a place where you would go to learn something new. I mean, unless you have a specific subject that you know nothing about, if you know everything about the Bigfoot and you go to a conference, you're not going to learn something new about the Bigfoot. Wasn't that the whole point of these conferences?
Mm-hmm.
Is to bring new evidence forward? Why are we all just kind of sitting in our laurels and just using the same old material over and over again and bringing up the exact same kind of material and being like, oh, we should all praise me because I brought this exact same material that we've had for 70 years.
And I've been to about half a dozen. Maybe more, give or take 1 or 2, I don't know. And I always leave thinking I just listen to the same, monotonous. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm sorry. Monica, thank you. I'll give you a story. I'm going to start off with a story here, and then we're going to get our guest on here. I got somebody reached out to me. This person is Native American. 3/4, basically, Native American. They have one grandparent that wasn't. I lived in Ohio. And they listened to when I was talking with Patrick Meekin. You remember Meekin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they started talking about the Amish. And then we had this conversation when we went down the rabbit hole together. And he's a really cool guy. He says, I am completely on your side when it comes to Bigfoot. He's not from Ohio. He lives there now. And he said, I'm on your side when it comes to Bigfoot. He's like, I don't believe in this ape thing. They are like a separate tribe. He's like, but they're like a tribe that has an ability. Did y'all lock the door?
Yeah, I locked it.
Bunch of weird people went around there.
You see that white light?
Yeah. What was that?
Wasn't it like a flash?
What was that?
I don't know.
I don't know. That was weird. But he said they're like a different tribe. And then he says he likes my opinions and beliefs because, in his opinion, there's a lot of people that are going around co-opting, picking and choosing what they want to call this Bigfoot. They want to call that. And then he told me a crazy ghost story. In this person's life, he's had 2 really, really weird experiences. One was at his wife, who's now his wife. She wasn't at the time. That was his fiance. And they were walking through a barn on her, I think it was her uncle's property, it wasn't her uncle. It was her second cousin's property. When they were going through this property and they're going through the barn, imagine if you're just walking through the barn and they're just peaceful April night. She was beautiful, it was wonderful. And it was very nice. It was just in Utah. And they were walking. And then they hear very clearly somebody say, hey. And they stop, and they were talking, and they had just kind of had a lull in the conversation. They're holding hands. Very beautiful, nice, beautiful piece of property. and they heard hey. And he stops and he looks at her and he's like, "Did you hear that?" His wife is Hispanic, but he's 3/4 Native American and a quarter Caucasian. And she's like, "Don't answer it," because Hispanics. Always everything is a, what is it, Anthony? A kukui.
Yeah, it's always something bad.
You're never supposed to answer.
We don't even answer
Phantasmo,
if
isn't it,
the
like-
doorbell rings. We
Phantasmo,
just
yeah.
hide because it's usually someone we don't want to deal with. Doorbell rings and we're like, no, I'm not
And
answering
it's
that.
somebody holding a watchtower,
Yeah,
Or you're like, they're like, Jesus loves you, and you're like, he loves me? He didn't act like it. I didn't even think he was into me. Are you sure? You better not be spreading rumors. Then you see Jesus at work, and it's awkward. You're like, hey, what's up, Jesus?
I knew Jesus was giving me too many tamales that day.
I knew he was being too friendly with the comida.
either that or it's some mailman delivering like certified mail from some bill collector or like a credit, some kind of collection agency. And you're like, I'm not, no, don't
Your
answer.
mom
the
tells
phone.
you, tell him that I'm dead.
Yeah.
You're like, my mom, she died. You're like, well, who's that back there? That's my mom. She's dead. Mom's like, you're a terrible liar. No, look, the point is, they were walking through a barn and they hear a voice. And then it said, hey, both of them come from a culture, one Native American, the other one, Hispanic. You don't answer this, right? And so he just says, I don't know what possessed me. I don't know what took over me. But I decided to just say, yeah. And his wife, she's like, his fiance grabs his hand. She's like, what are you doing? They hear it clearly. Like it's a voice. Lola, exactly. Lolo says it, yeah. And so when he answers, he turns around and they see this man standing there with a briefcase, and he says, I'd like to talk to you about your car's restricted warranty. I'm joking, bro. I'm joking. I'm kidding. That's not what happened. No. They didn't see a man. They turn around, and he's like, I don't see anything. But my wife does. My wife says, do you see that? She's like, right over there. It was one of those barns you walk through one side and open. It's open on both ends, and there were stalls and horses. She's like, do you see that in the corner? And he's like, I don't see it. He's scanning, and he looks, and he sees it. It's a nice, cool spring evening. And he says, dude, I see this. It looks like a shimmering, like how heat looks, gives off that weird shimmering look. And he's like, what am I looking at? And so they back up slowly away from it, and then turn, and then keep walking, and then they're out of the barn. Then they go back to the farmhouse. He talks to her cousin. It's a lot older than her. Really nice guy. And he says, oh, he's like, that's our resident Bigfoot. And he's like, kind of taken aback by that. He's like, Bigfoot? And he's like, yeah. The shimmering thing you saw? He goes, that's a Bigfoot, or as some people call it, a squatch. And he's like, never heard of this. Never heard of cloaking. Never knew any of these things. So he asked me about it. He says, what is your opinion on that? Do you think that could have been a Bigfoot? And I said, it could have been anything. I think these creatures, and they travel, from place to place, they don't always use their, what do you guys say in what's it called? The final form? What's it called? The Dragon Ball Z?
Dragon Ball Z, yeah, your final
Where
form.
they have different forms. It's kind of like that. I mean, they do have different forms. They sat down to eat dinner. He says, when Agnes, that was his wife, when she comes home, we'll talk. Right? He was a Hispanic. His wife, he married, was half white. Her name was Agnes. Comes home. Of course, he's got some superstition, himself, being a Latino. And he says, Agnes, you want to tell the kids here, they're spending a few days there. It was almost like, they said it was like a vacation, like being in a bed and breakfast. It was really nice, beautiful. That little pond. And he said, you want to tell them about our resident, whatever. She starts to describe a ghost. So my friend, he's like, wait a minute. He's like, that sounds like a ghost. And she's like, well, that's what it is. And he goes, I'm not going to lie. At that moment, I thought, these people are kooky. He goes, I know what I saw. I know what I heard. But what the heck does that have to do with Bigfoot? He said it was like 20 years ago. It was like 2000. It literally was 2003. And he just told me this not too long ago. He said, what does this have to do with it? And then he said, oh, no, it's a Bigfoot. I think that's its true form, is a Bigfoot-looking creature, but it has the ability to be other things. He said, in fact, one day I was on my tractor. I was plowing, There's a little section that he plows, a few acres. He says, going back and forth, and I see a tree stump that I had never seen before. He's like, well, that's odd, But us, the initiated, we know that the Mandela effect is a real thing. And you're like, what in the heck is going on here? He gets off of his tractor. He goes over there to touch this thing.
The tree stump?
The tree stump. As he starts walking towards it, it literally unfolds. Arms, legs, head pops up. He said, and it didn't look like a friendly thing either. He said it looked terrifying. It looked like it was angry, and it didn't have red glowing eyes or anything like that. This is the middle of the day. And this thing unfurled itself. He said, and then it stood up, and it was about 8 feet tall. Huge, huge chest. And he said, and it looked just like a quintessential Bigfoot. He said, all I got from this thing was a message in my mind saying, go away. And he said, I did. I got right back on my tractor, and I took off. He said, it didn't move. It just stood there. A couple days later, after he told his wife, she drives up. There's like a carport. She pulls in. She hears a bang on the other side of it. Scares the crap out of her. Her dog got so scared, didn't bark. It just peed. That little basset hound. She picked it up. The dog wouldn't do anything, just lay there. Takes it inside. They hear a banging on the wall. She goes to make dinner, unnerved. Goes to grab a knife, and the knife spins. Eventually, they go outside, and they confront this thing together. And they pray, they invite their preacher over or whatever, and it appears, and it comes walking up toward their porch, a really pretty wraparound porch, with several people there from the church, in front of all these people. And then it gradually materialized about 40 yards away. This thing looked like a freaking Bigfoot. And it was able to communicate with them. And it basically just said, leave me alone. I've been here before you. That part's the impression that they got. But leave me alone is what it wanted. And this woman's cousin was like, no. I bought this property. You are living on my property. And then this thing came to the bedroom window a couple nights after that. I don't know how long it was. They said a couple. Comes to the window and begins to have a conversation with this guy. And once again, he reaffirms. He's like, I'm not backing down. This is my property. I've been here for 11 years. Why are you just now choosing? This is what it said. That it was here during the tenure of the previous owners, and that had been basically leaving them alone up to this point. My friend's sitting here, he's taking all this in. He's listening to this guy tell this story. So he says, "So what did you do?" He said, "Well, I don't negotiate with terrorists." He's like,
Good policy.
I didn't give it food. I didn't feed into it in any way. And when something weird would happen around the house, we ignored it. And then we came to the conclusion that that's what we had been doing all this time. Every time something would happen that was weird or anomalous, we just didn't give it any energy, another thought, no power. And then one day, we see this thing, or his son does. Son was the first one to see it full on. Guess what preceded this? He sees it in the edge of the woods. What do you think he saw before he saw the Bigfoot?
A light in the woods.
A light.
I was going to say something.
A bluish green light appeared in the woods.
Some
Imagine
orb?
that.
Or just lights.
No, just a ball of light.
So
And then he goes back and he says, I think I just saw a Bigfoot, but I also saw an orb of light. So when you start taking into account how these things come about, I mean, you really start to get into like, okay, a lot of these encounters, when it's habitual or whatever, it involves mind speak or telepathy. It involves orbs or balls of light. And there's some sort of weird haunting thing going on. And you're sitting there going like, what is this? Obviously, there's something there that's causing this. This thing can tap into it. But story after story after story after story, and we're supposed to be sitting here believing that this is just some sort of ape.
that was a coincidence.
Yeah.
And there's maybe
What about
Bigfoot had
the-
a flashlight.
Episode of The Shimmering Phantom, which is basically, me and Bettina Moss talked, about this the other night, like in depth. Not on the show, but we talked. I think we talked about it on the show too. But it's cloaking, and if you think you can explain that away just by saying, "Oh well, they have some sort of fibers in their hair, and it makes it," and then they just, it's like,
We
Eddie Murphy when he got sued by the disco. A strobe light fell, creating a weird effect, and my eyes were sprained. I need $6 million for my sprained eyes, and the whole nightclub sued him. I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, even earlier in the story, you mentioned about how it telepathically talked to them. Like, how do you explain that? That's not something that normally happens. That's not something you can explain. So, like, even in the very aspects of just looking at it as a creature, and you want to take those stories, there's certain stories that you hear like that where, like, they say, like, oh, it spoke to me in my mind, but it's just a normal creature. What other creature do you know can speak to you in your mind?
How would a giant ape, Gigantopithecus, like be out there talking to you in your mind? Like, how often does that really happen in nature? Did Jane Goodall go out and the apes were like talking to her? I mean,
What was the name of that ape that learned sign language? Coco.
Yeah,
Whatever.
the one that Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as
Rest
good
in
as it
peace.
gets in the animal
well,
kingdom.
they say orangutans are really good
When
with
it
that too,
comes
but I've
to-
never heard of orang pendek supposedly coming out and going,
Yeah, I've never locked eyes with an orangutan and understood it wanted bananas.
yeah. So I have a hard time believing, and then people, I had a Bigfoot researcher tell me the other day, and I'm not gonna bag on him. He's not, I mean, like best friends or anything, but I know him and he's a nice guy. But he said, when this is what he said in this group, and he said, when people begin with the mind speak, I tune them out. That's it. I'm done. I think they're full of crap. And I thought, wow. So if somebody tells you what happened to them, that's it. You're done. And then I'm labeled crazy because I'm giving you the whole story. I'm not omitting things or adding to it. I'm just telling you what was told. So anyway, my friend leaves. They leave the bed and breakfast that's free. It's with their relatives. This is a beautiful place. I know where it's at. He says, we leave. He's like, all the way home. Me and my wife were talking about it. We're driving all the way back to Ohio. He's like, and we're just amazed. They didn't see a Bigfoot. They just saw, this shimmering thing, and experienced a couple weird things happen. Now, it's not even anything show worthy. It was just like they thought there was something kind of a trickster element to it, whatever. But we are supposed to believe that this doesn't happen. These people who are experiencing these things, they're all what? Crazy? And only people that see them really quick on the side of the road, or a hunter that goes out and sees it and it looks like it's flesh and blood, those are the only people that have really had experiences, right?
Well, they're not crazy. They're just all liars, and they're all collectively liars.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big,
and they love to bring stories to people and make them lie,
despite never having any
or tell their lies.
interest in the community. They still all got together to make this big lie.
Yeah, they all. It's a big conspiracy, and they all do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Let me get my glasses so I can see. So I feel like we are being led around by the nose by people who have a vested interest in themselves and self-promotion and making a name for themselves. And somebody asked me that one day, a couple of years ago. I was on the phone with somebody, and they said, well, that's what we're doing. You're building a fan base. You have to, build a cult of personality. I'm like, yeah, but at what cost? When you get so far away from your roots of what made you what you are in this field. Now, I understand growing and evolving, but when you know the truth and you feel like you've encountered the truth, why would you continue to just swim in the kiddie pool and not go out into the deeper waters where the answers lie? It's real simple. If you find a niche and you just keep hammering home with that niche.
Unfortunately, the Bigfoot niche of them being physical earns them a lot of money. Finding Bigfoot, because it's supposed to be some physical creature, you can get a lot of money from like that. Or you write books about how it just seems more acceptable for it to be physical, which seems absolutely bizarre to me, than to have any kind of supernatural abilities, which, it really just, I think, puts a shame on human history, because I think humans have been dealing with the supernatural for years, for a long, long time.
Millennium.
We've lost it for some reason, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because you don't want to believe doesn't mean that it disappears all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly a shame, because, it really hurts us in the long run. And I think I saw someone say here earlier something about how we had it and then we lost it, and that we have never been able to relearn that. Seems like some people don't want to relearn it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Sue G, that's a very good point you just made there. When you look at, somebody else just said something very interesting.
I saw a comment I wanted to add, but I was going to wait till we...
Joanne, that's a very good point. That's so sad those researchers are never going to expand their horizons to find the truth, because they don't want to.
No.
It would destroy their base.
Austin Berry asked, Josh, what is your advice to someone who is scared to talk about the things they have seen regarding this kind of stuff?
Give me a call. Text me, whatever. Message me. We can talk.
I would say that it's important
Be careful what you say on here.
I was gonna say though, it's like it's important to be like, it's okay to have those feelings of, you know, trepidation about speaking about these kinds of things, because obviously what you've dealt with is a major thing. And you've obviously, I've read a couple of your other comments, and you've obviously dealt with some backlash about coming clean about these kind of things. But that's exactly why we started this channel. And that's one thing that I could say that, like, I'm very proud of this channel, is that we are always accepting of anyone that comes to us. We will look at we'll at least hear your story at the very least. I mean, we'll try our best to give you advice. We have Facebook groups, we have prayer groups. I mean, we have a lot of things to help people who do feel those kind of things. And I think like that's one of the main reasons why we had our podcast, was that we could help those people who felt trepidation about speaking about these kind of subjects, you know, and especially if you go to these compartmentalized groups where they just want you to talk about certain aspects of your encounter, where it's like, I've dealt with a lot, and you telling me to just give you this little bit doesn't help me at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's as simple as that. So we will never turn away anyone who has a story that they feel like they want to share with us.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I just saw a comment. I wanted to read it. Now I can't find it.
Who's it?
Yeah.
Great comment, Corey. The devil's greatest trick he ever played on us is getting us to believe he doesn't exist. Same with people denying the supernatural. That's their power. I mean, I think we talked about it on Friday. What would be worse, an actual physical cryptid that you have to deal with, or just the haunting of it, like a ghost?
Jackie, Jackie Hall, you need to get in touch with me. My email address is right up here, folks. If people want to reach out to me, I'll try to reach out to you in as timely a fashion as possible. Also, don't forget the Patreon right here, patreon.com, PRT podcast. Go there. You can become a $10, $20, $30, $40 tier. Each one gets you a different level of swag. We've had a few people now go into the $40 tier, which is nice of you to help and support. And we like to help and support you by giving you merch. And I think we'll be able to finally mail some stuff off this week, because we've been trying to get it right. We got to make sure that we get everybody what they're supposed to be getting.
We got to give our cult members their merch so that they can wear it.
Daunting task, yeah. What's up, Appalachian Tales of Terror? What's up, going? Hey, Overbuilt Motor, Kano, everybody in the chat tonight. Sugar Britches always doing a great job. Thank you, everybody that's here. You know, let's see, what is this one here? There was another one I wanted to read. Hold on one second, folks. Bear with me. Oh, well, I lost it. Sorry, folks. I lost the whatever. Let me get my guest on here so we can start talking. It's going to be a little different guest tonight. I think you'll enjoy it. He's a pretty well-spoken guy, you know. And we'll get started. It's time. Hey, Bernard, Katie7, Adam, how y'all doing tonight? XN. Let's see here. Wonder how it sounds. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Good. How's it going?
Oh, it's good. I'm here calling.
Sounds great.
Good. We're making sure everything sounds good.
Yeah, I got y'all through my microphone and roadcaster, so
Good.
hopefully the audio is good.
All right, I wanted to make sure we're doing good. Hold on one second. I got to move.
No, you sound great.
I can't move this over. Oh, God. Okay. Did we just lose the stream?
It's still going for me.
Okay. I don't know how to get this back over. Hold on one second, Eric. I'm trying to get this set up here. I can't get it back.
All right, no worries.
What you have to show me what that is because I couldn't find it. So I'm just getting that blind. Okay, so Eric, folks, this is Eric. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Eric Freeman Sims. I've been a paranormal researcher and investigator for over 20 years since I was a teenager, and I'm also the host of the Unseen Paranormal podcast.
Yeah, you predominantly what you do is you deal with ghosts, right? That's your forte, right?
Yeah, my forte has always been ghosts and hauntings, and for the most part, trying to prove to myself that there's something beyond us, and that we, not necessarily from a religious standpoint, but that we go somewhere after we die.
Yeah, how did that start for you?
So my first experience that I can remember was when I was 8, and I was asleep, and I woke up out of a dead sleep and looked at the doorway in my bedroom, and there was a glowing lady standing in my doorway. And of course, at 8, it scared me, so I jumped up, flipped the light on, slammed the door, and the next day I talked to my mom about it. And my family's always been really open about the paranormal and experiences they've had and haunted houses they've lived in. And couldn't explain it. My parents bought the house when it was built. Of course, you don't know what was on the land before, but never had any other experiences for a while until my father passed away when I was 14. And that I was always also the weird kid. Whenever we had book fairs at school, I was the one looking for ghost books and, alien posters and things like that to put around my room. But when my dad died when I was 14, it kind of really kicked it in high gear for me to actually go out with my friends to cemeteries. And I don't condone trespassing, but we used to sneak into a couple of haunted plantations around the area where I live in Middle Tennessee, and started looking for my own experiences and more experiences and evidence of the afterlife to prove that my dad just didn't stop existing.
That's so. Did you believe, like, when before that there was no afterlife, or you weren't raised at that at all?
I wasn't raised religiously. My mom was a God-fearing lady, but she did not believe in organized religion because her father was a Southern Baptist preacher and not a very good person. So that kind of soured her of organized religion. And my dad was very much agnostic, so believed in something beyond us, but not in any kind of God or anything in particular. Kind of just not put labels on things. So I did believe in afterlife, and like I said, I'd grown up hearing ghost stories from my family, and so I kind of had an idea. And both my parents believed in afterlife in their own way. So, but I've always been a very analytical person. And so I'm one of those, I have to, prove it to myself that there's something beyond us. And of course, in the 20-some years I've been doing this, I've run into lots of weird things and seen lots of crazy things and had lots more paranormal things happen in my own life, in my own house.
It's so, let me ask you a question. When you have gone out and done these investigations, and like I was just talking earlier on the show about someone who gave me a Bigfoot story, but it's something they didn't see, but the people they stayed with, which were relatives of his wife or his soon-to-be wife, which is now his wife, they had many encounters with this thing that looked like a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a haunting. Have you come across anything like that?
I've not come across anything that I would, as far as Bigfoot or cryptid wise. I have come across some things on haunted locations that I would say are earth spirits or like nature spirits, as you hear them called. And they're spirits that were never living. They're nothing demonic. I hate the whole demonic thing, but nothing demonic. They're just spirits that were never living beings, but they still exist in the world nonetheless. So a lot of those you come by, they're attached to the land and things like that. And people will build brand new houses and they'll have things happen because of these certain types of elemental spirits.
What do you? Okay, so let's talk about that. What, in your opinion, what constitutes an elemental spirit? What is that?
I think in Native American traditions, they talk a lot about those type of spirits. They're kind of there to protect the land and the animals and the trees and things like that. And, there's different classifications of them. You can get into like fairies and things like that. And I don't know all about that, but they've just been around since the beginning of time as spirits that wander the land and for whatever reason protect certain areas and try to keep people away from certain areas.
Because sometimes it seems like the spirits can be that way, but it also, we come across ones that are just hostile toward anybody being in their area. It's kind of like bacteria, and they're like, this is my spot.
Yeah.
They don't want anything else, spirit, human, otherwise, in their spot. And I've had different people tell me that there's the jinn and then there's fairies, and it's all just regional. It depends on what region of the earth you're at. Do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I'm open to that. I call myself a skeptical believer. So I'm not going to shut down anybody's stories and their experiences. And there's lots of stories out there about the fae and about other things along that realm. And some people especially in the ghost world, believe that the fae and Bigfoot and all these things. Some people believe that the Bigfoot is part of the fae, and they think that everything paranormal kind of fits into the fae theory. That there's different types of fairies, and that somewhat goes along with some of the beliefs with the Native Americans, some of the Native American tribes, especially down here in the South, where all these little people existed and Bigfoot exists. And I saw somebody in the chat earlier say that Native Americans believe that Bigfoot is kind of two-spirit, one foot in the spirit world, one foot in the physical world. And to me, that kind of makes sense. And I think all these phenomena have a place. All these people that try to put everything in a box, and if it doesn't fit in their box, they just think it's a crock. I think that's ridiculous, because you have people out there having experiences with Bigfoot, elemental spirits, the fae, little people. You can find all kinds of stories out there about these things. And just because I haven't had an experience with them, who am I to say that they don't exist?
Yeah. And I was talking earlier about compartmentalization and how I want to destroy it.
Yeah.
And some people may think that's harsh, but the truth is the truth. To me, it's not destroying anybody's work or tearing anybody down. It's the tearing down of walls. The walls that have been built and put up by the old guard, the established guard, as they want to just say, hey, I just want to learn about this particular aspect. That's fine, but in order to learn, that's why when you go to school, you learn math, you learn history, you learn science, you learn how to, read and write. You learn all that because it's all connected. You can't just learn like, well, I'm just going to go to school and learn history and that's it. Well, how are you going to do that if you can't read or write? You can't do math if you don't have any knowledge of science. So to me, this is like school, Why would we all just have one class and then just hyper focus on that one class and then go so far as to ridicule and denounce those who want to learn the whole, they want to be educated on the entire subject, not just the bits and pieces. I don't understand that. And you were talking about an area when we talked previously about in Tennessee, it was like an area of high strangeness. You want to touch on that?
Yeah. So I live about an hour from Kentucky. And Kentucky is just a really strange place, especially Eastern Kentucky. If anybody's ever seen the film Hellier and all the high strangeness, and you got the Hopkinsville goblins, which Hopkinsville is only about an hour and 25 minutes from me. But there's a place called Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. And Octagon Hall's been on some of the TV shows and things, but that place is the real deal. It is, I went up there to investigate, the hauntings of it, but we were told stories about them seeing Bigfoot on the property, other cryptids on the property. People have filmed UAPs, UFOs over Octagon Hall. It's the only paranormal investigation I've ever been on where I was told to bring a firearm because of the cryptids they've seen on the property, and also of a giant mountain lion that roams the property. And they were more concerned about the mountain lion being a real physical being. And we get told by the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency and then Kentucky's Wildlife Resource Agency, well, mountain lions aren't around here. They ain't been in this area of the country in years. And they've had to eat their words lately because people have gotten trail cam footage of mountain lions. But yeah, and just all this high strangeness happens on this one property for whatever reason. It's kind of like the Skinwalker Ranch and places like that, the Bridgewater Triangle, Alaskan Triangle. You have all these different phenomena going on in this one place for some reason. And to put everything into a box and say that it's not connected somehow, when we have these places like this, that you have all this different phenomena that people have experienced and continue to experience on a regular basis. Yeah, that's just naive, and that's just stupid to think that this is all not connected in one way or the other, whether it's UFOs, Bigfoot, dogmen, ghost. There's whether it's a parallel dimension, time slips. I think there's many different explanations that you could probably give to different phenomena. And even in like hauntings, I think there's different explanations for hauntings. I think sometimes it's a time slip. I think sometimes you have, of course, the stone tape theory where, it's recorded on the environment because that energy was so dominant there, or something traumatic happened and you get it replaying like a movie. And then I think sometimes you get intelligent hauntings. And I think Bigfoot and other things are that way as well. I think there's different explanations for them. And but yeah, Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky, interesting place. They even told us if we're walking across the grounds and we see a shimmery bluish area that's weird looking in the middle of the air, don't go near it because they're afraid it's some kind of portal or black hole or something like that. And these people they're serious because they've seen that themselves, and they had many people seen it and experience it, and they just don't want you to go missing like a lot of the missing person stuff in the national parks and things.
We got a place here called the Devil's Backbone, which has a lot of weird hauntings, and I don't even want to call it. It's very haunted. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like there's so many different things going on. Bernard Fox says I missed the speaker's name. His name is Eric Sims, right?
Yeah, Eric Freeman Sims.
Eric Freeman Sims, yeah, and he's got a show. What's the name of your show again, Eric? Tell everybody.
The Unseen Paranormal Podcast.
Yep, the Unseen. So, what me and Eric are talking about here, and to anybody who just showed up, we're talking about the paranormal, basically, and he's talking about a place of high strangeness. Where is this located at? Tennessee?
It's in Franklin, Kentucky, kind of right across the border from Tennessee.
Okay, right across the border from Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were at my conference last year, right?
Yeah, in Paris. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What did you take away from the conference?
I liked, one reason I started my podcast was because I have a guest on every week, and I wanted to talk to different people because, like I said, my forte has always been ghosts. And I wanted to expand my own horizon and talk to other people about cryptids and other things. And so one of those things is I got interested in dogmen because of talking to some guests, and of course, the Beast of Bray Road and all these other reports. And so I wanted to come to the Dogman Cryptid Conference to learn more about dogmen and these encounters, and talk to some of the people that are collecting these stories or even have their own experiences. And so DA and Ronald Murphy and some of the ones that I heard speak were amazing speakers on it. Ronald Murphy captivated me with talking about the history and it going back to Vikings and Native Americans, and even finding Native American burials where they had put wolf skulls over the top of their own skulls because they wanted to become wolfmen. And also I found it interesting that I've lived in Tennessee my entire life, and I've been to Land Between the Lakes many times, but I was not aware that was a hot spot for dogman sightings. And I found it fascinating too to hear about the cover up in I believe it was in the 80s, where some people got killed in what appeared to be a dogman. And so, yeah, I was just fascinated by all the history and the stories and also coming to meet some of the people I've had on my show. I've had Law Blackburn on my show. I've had Ken Gerhardt, and now I've had Ronald Murphy on my show. So coming and meeting some of those guys and actually talking to them, face to face and in person.
Eric, let me ask you a question. How does that fit in though to your ghosts? Because you're predominantly a ghost researcher. Like, explain.
Well, I think the word paranormal has kind of been hijacked by the ghost community, by investigators and ghost hunters. And to me, paranormal is anything outside the normal.
Yep.
And that's what the word means. So instead of, I'm trying to take that word back for the entire community, including cryptozoologists and people that are into UFOs and all this stuff, because none of that stuff we can explain. So it's all paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're big proponents on that. And
yeah, and I've been railing against gatekeeping on my show for a long time too, and the fact that there needs to be more diversity in the paranormal in general, because I think it's going to take all of us from different backgrounds to try to figure it out and to gather more evidence and things like that. So I'm a big proponent of, everybody being involved in paranormal. It's been this bro culture for way too long. And I'm not, dissing on anybody, but I just think it takes everybody from all walks of life, instead of people on TV with, affliction t-shirts and giant muscles yelling demons all the time, things like that.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
I'll take you on.
or just some shaky camera as they run away.
Right.
Yeah. When I did the
every little thing, what was that? What was that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, it's a raccoon. I'm looking right at it.
Yeah. But that raccoon it's possessed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. It wouldn't be paranormal if it wasn't.
Yeah, that's why it's eating trash, because normally raccoons don't eat trash, but it's possessed by a jinn or by a
we talked about that
evil
with
spirit.
or thieving ghosts. That's why they look like little robbers. And
Yeah, or like a possum. But yeah, there really hasn't been a whole lot. Like when you think of mainstream paranormal TV shows, the stuff that the average person would just kind of casually come across, there hasn't been a whole lot of productivity there in terms of like answering questions and furthering this like getting closer to answers in this field. And Christopher Garetano, he's been on our show too, and he's a good friend of the show, and he talked about the same thing. Like the stuff that's getting pumped out is stuff that that is made with the mentality that the audience is stupid, like a bunch of dumb people. And he said himself, like these producers, they've straight up told me, Chris, you have to understand the audience is stupid. And he's like, no, they're not. And I'm not going to make something to appeal to people with low brain function, because that's not what our audience is.
Yeah, and
right.
And one thing I said on Friday, which I think should be like the standard, is that like no matter the encounter, no matter what you hear about the encounter beforehand, before you go to the place, is like you should take every encounter as an entirely new encounter of a new cryptid that you don't understand. Even if it checks all the boxes of, like, say, a ghost or Bigfoot or a dogman, you should still look at it as like, okay, but let me not fall into that, box of like just putting it in this, because then my expectations will fill most of the details for me. And like that's what happens when you what is it?
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a shame, really. And one thing we spoke about on Friday, which was, if you do take Dogman and Bigfoot to be physical creatures and you believe in ghosts, then what happens when a Dogman or Bigfoot dies? Does it become a ghost? Right. Are those Bigfoot and Dogman ghosts? Doesn't that count as a supernatural thing then? Doesn't it become a spiritual creature at that point?
Right. And all the other animals of that too, bears, mountain lions, everything. One of the mottos that I try to stay true to is that when I go in to investigate a place that is haunted, supposedly haunted, we don't go in to investigate a haunting. We go in to investigate stories of a haunting. Mm-hmm. Because, people, like you were saying, banging and things like that can be things that are explainable. And so if you go in with that preconceived notion that this place is already haunted, then you've already tainted kind of your objectivity to that place and to what's going on there. So then when you go in and collect evidence, to support those stories, then I think you come out better in the end. And then when it comes to like, Dogman and Bigfoot, one of the things I've kind of learned and kind of taken to heart is, how do we know that some of that is not like a time slip or something like that? If you see a bear in the woods, you don't go up and poke it in the butt to make sure it's real. You just kind of stay away from it, to make sure that bear is not spiritual or a time slip or something like that. You just kind of stay away from it. So yeah, I believe that there's a lot of explanations. Like I was saying, there's quite a few explanations for things going on with cryptids and things like that. And these are just opinions that I've gotten from talking to people that know better and that dive into that phenomena a lot more than I do.
Whenever you do these investigations, do you ever come across people who have had hauntings, that have had cryptids and other things, show up on their property or describe? Because some people will describe things like if all they know are ghosts, then they're going to describe them as ghosts or demons.
Yeah.
Because so
yeah, and some places, some of the private investigations that I've done, they'll tell you stories about things they've kind of seen outside their house in the woods, but their main focus tends to be on what's going on in their house, because that's typically their sanctuary, and that's what they want you to help them with. They're not too concerned about what's going on in the woods at night. They want that sanctuary to be good, where they can lock the door and feel comfortable without anything coming in. Yeah, I've heard stories of people with hauntings in their house, not necessarily seeing straight on a Bigfoot or something, but seeing glowing eyes in the woods and hearing what they thought was maybe a person walking around outside in the woods outside of their house and things like that. But like I said, most of those people that I deal with, they're more concerned about what's going on in their house with things moving and seeing apparitions and things like that.
Yeah. But they do, sometimes they'll tell you about stuff that's going on outside the house.
Yeah, and I've heard a few stories of people too who have had hauntings that have seen UAPs and UFOs and things as well, and had experiences, and kind of their lives have become kind of paranormal all around. And
a UAP is unidentified alien presence, is that correct?
Or they keep changing it. It was unidentified aerial phenomena, and now it's unidentified aerial something. They keep changing it, but yeah, UFOs.
Okay, because I've had people tell me both ways that it's aerial phenomenon, but they also say, because UFO is unidentified flying object, and then there's unidentified the USO, right? Is it unidentified submersible object or something like that?
Yeah.
And then there's UAP, which some people say is unidentified alien presence. I don't know. It just seems to be kind of, like you said, it's fluid, it's flowing. But one of the things that I come across, especially since having done this channel for 4 years, I get stories of alien abduction that kind of bleed into haunting. And people having sleep paralysis. Sometimes it looks like a hag. Sometimes it's like alien, or they look like aliens. And then sometimes people will tell me that I have a haunting going on, but then there's a dogman type creature. And typically those people don't come to me and say that there's a dogman. They'll call it like a werewolf looking creature that'll come up to their bedroom or to their children's bedroom, and that it'll do what it does. I mean, and it's disturbing to these people, to say the least. And I don't know what to tell these people, because their first reaction, if they're having activity, spiritual activity in their house, then they're going to want to say, oh, it's a demon. And then, that creature is some sort of demonic entity, but it does things that seem to be more physical than whatever's in the house. But then sometimes the things will come into the house, and then that creates a whole nother drama, that's going on. And I keep saying this, if we all could work together, we could probably get a little further in to the meat of what's really going on. And I think that compartmentalization is the enemy of that. And I think it stands in the way of growth.
Well, it divides us. Mm-hmm. And the thing is like, if we all did work together and everybody had like kind of an open mind, you could go into an encounter and you'd be like, this isn't my expertise. This seems kind of more like ghost like. Oh, I know Eric. I'll send Eric their way. And like that's how it should work. But when you when you separate everything, it becomes this big like, oh, we don't want to deal with them because they're a separate thing. They don't deal with what we deal with when it's all the same. It's just different aspects of the same.
Yeah. But then I end up getting people that come to me and they'll be like, hey, you know, I'm a parent. And like you said, the term has been hijacked by the ghost community, but they'll say, and then, you know, the cryptid community is really bad about saying, oh, well, we don't deal with paranormal. Yes, you do. You deal with paranormal all the time. You're just going by the definition that's been taken by the ghost community. And they're taking that. And I get people that'll ask me to weigh in on stuff. They'll be like, hey, I'm a paranormal investigator. I get that all the time. And they'll say, you know, you're into the whole dogman phenomenon. Can you give me your opinion on this, and that? And more than a few times, I've had people like come at me kind of sideways when I don't tell them what they expect or what they want. I'll tell them, well, it has everything to do with the haunting. And they'll be like, most of the time, I'll say most of the time, they're accepting. But sometimes people become combative. They're like, well, this thing showed up, and I don't think it has anything to do with the haunting. And I'm like, why not? Yeah. I mean, what is a coincidence? Like, you know, I mean, what kind of coincidence is that? Say if you wrecked your car, then a plane landed on top of you. That's a big coincidence. Like, that would be a huge coincidence. Like, what are the odds? And I'm like, okay, so this person has a serious haunting going on. Then they see a goat man-like creature. Right? Or they see a Bigfoot or a dog man. You don't think that has something to do with it? It's just a weird coincidence that it just so happens that in multiple hauntings, like cryptids show up. Why? I mean, they're just there for the party. I don't.
In my experience with hauntings, I think that you have these trickster spirits too that have learned how to shapeshift to see what they want you to see. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think maybe some of the shadow men, hat men that people see with the sleep paralysis, and then some people, like you were saying, see dog men and things. I think sometimes that can just be these trickster spirits kind of playing into your fears and trying to scare you as much as they can. I've even heard of some true demonic type cases, and I hate to use that word, but of where that entity showed itself as a giant wolf whenever it would manifest in front of this lady in her house. And, you know, she took it as a demonic presence, not necessarily as a cryptid, because of the other things that was going on in the house. And it was people had gotten sick and cancer and all this other stuff just from coming in contact with the house and all this negative energy in it. But yeah, it chose to show itself as this giant wolf that she would see running through the house with these glowing red eyes and things like that. So I think in some cases where people are seeing in their house a Bigfoot or a dog man or some other type of scary cryptid creature, I think maybe it's just some sort of spirit, whether it be a spirit that was living at one time or one of the inhuman spirits that we were talking about earlier, like elementals and things, you know, trying to scare you off of their turf for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And also one of my things in the paranormal that I've come across, I've never come across anything I would say is demonic, me personally, in 20-something years investigating. But if you were a nasty person in life, you're probably going to be a nasty person in death. So with that, why wouldn't they do whatever they could to scare you the most? And it seems like some of the spirits that I've come across, for whatever reason, have become really powerful to do things that other spirits can't do. And I don't know why that is. Maybe there's different levels, or they've been around long enough to learn how to move things and do things like that, and mimic and doppelgangers. And because there's lots of in a lot of hauntings, there are a lot of reports of doppelgangers as well, of like seeing a living person. Yep. What you think is a living person walk across the room when they're not even home from work yet, or hearing your name called and it sounds like your loved one is calling your name, and things like that. So there's plenty of that trickster vibe out there. So yeah, some of that where like you're saying, they're waking up with sleep paralysis and they're seeing things like dogmen and things like that maybe it could be, you know, some sort of trickster spirit.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like there's a lot to say here. I had a woman who gave me, and I'm still trying to vet it out with some friends of mine that live in the Middle East because I have a lot of friends over there. And she had a horrific experience. She's from Belgium, but she had a horrific experience with a friend of hers. They decided to go trekking across the desert, and they went to Petra. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the audience that doesn't know, Petra is a place in the Middle East, and it is located in, I believe it's in Jordan, right? They went across this desert, and I'm going to get into their story. Like, it's a long, in-depth, some scary, really, really bad stuff happened. Well, Petra is a city that's known to be haunted by the jinn. And and another one in Lebanon, Baalbek, that's another one. There's another one that I forgot what it's called. I got it right here on my phone.
Are these ghost towns?
Well, they're ghost towns, yeah, but it's a little more depth than just being a ghost town.
Well, I mean, like, are they
Al Madam? That's the other one, and Al Madam is, I believe, is it in Syria or is it? Let me look it up real quick. But
Yeah,
all of
Petra
this-
is like, Petra, you go in between these, like, this big opening in this mountain, and there are all these buildings, these really ornate buildings that are carved into the stone. And it was actually a city, and there's water there in the middle of the desert. And so that's why they settled there. From what I understand, Petra was also a hub of banking activity back then and trading and things like that.
Yeah, and Al Madam was in Dubai. That's where it was. It's close to Dubai. You know, so it's Arab Emirates. And so with these places, though, I have stories from all these places. I did a deep dive on the Middle East, and I learned a lot. What's funny, though, is I have an Irish researcher, and he reached out to me. I mean, he lives here in the States. He lives in Boston now, and he's retired from all this or whatever, but he was all into following the Warrens and all that. He never wrote any books or anything, but he was big into the whole phenomenon. But he had traveled to these places, and he interviewed a woman who was, I don't want to call it possession so much as like she was attacked repeatedly after she threw rocks at the hole in Baalbek, which is in Lebanon. And she said some things, you know, and like basically cursing the devil or whatever. The problem was that she wasn't a person that really believed. And this guy that used to be a researcher in Ireland, he's been to Ireland, Scotland, all over the UK, and he's been into Norway, Iceland, I believe he's been to Finland and Sweden, all these different places, where some of these places, they actually believe in not just fairies, but they believe in different types. They believe in fairies, they believe in gnomes, they believe in dwarves, and they're all different. They believe in goblins, and they believe in elves. Now, it's real easy to put like a catch-all term on that. Oh, they're all spirits, they're all elementals, they're all jinn, they're all fairies. Yes and no, because you can deal with one type of spirit and it's benign. It's and some of them are absolutely just a cancer. And so, in order to know what you're dealing with, you know, it's not as simple as a lot of Christians and Muslims. They're very similar in the belief that they just want to put a label on it. Christians are like, they're all demons. It's a demon. And everything is a demon. There's a demon here, a demon there, a demon down, you know. And then the Muslims do the same thing with the jinn. It's just the jinn. I mean, literally, I had an Arabic guy. It was a Jordanian guy. And he told me a story of a jinn that was growling at the foot of his bed and that was pulling on his feet and ultimately attacked his son. And then they moved to another place, and he said there was another jinn there, and it was a completely different entity. It looked like a freaking leprechaun. And I'm like, I told him, I said, Salim, that's his name. And I worked with him downtown for years. And I said, Salim, I said, he moved in with a friend of mine named Ghanem, and they were roommates. And Ghanem was like, he's like, dude, they could not be more different. Like, he was very open about it. He's like, these are not the same thing. But Ghanem explained to me that in the Arab community, this was like years ago when I heard this, and then I recently got back in touch with him through his brother. But he told me, he says, dude, in the Arab community, he's like, everything is a jinn, everything. It could be something that flies. It could be something in the ground. It could be anything that's not us is basically one of them.
This is just a question, but do you
Go
think it's like a form of protection where it's like, say like if we just all label this as one thing and we know that one thing to be bad, then we won't mess with any of it? Do you think like that's the reason why they did that? Or maybe that's where it started out?
That's true, but you also have to realize, and here's why it's important, folks. Somebody asked me this the other day. They sent me a really snarky email, and they said, it's all demonic. Why are you even entertaining whatever? Let me explain something to you. If you don't know what kind of, that's like saying that's a dog. It's a Chihuahua. And it's the same as that dog, which is
the same as a
Great
wolf.
Dane.
If you just,
It's a Doberman Pinscher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or it's a Cocker Spaniel. I handled dogs for like 3.5 years. Part-time was a job I had. I trained them. I trained big dogs, Mastiffs in particular. And my friend, he even bred them, and we trained them. Belgian Malinois, Mastiffs, German Shepherds, Dutch Shepherds. I mean, you name it. Rottweilers, Dobermans. These are not all the same dogs. They have different temperaments.
Different
and
levels of danger.
know with different levels of danger. You got to know which ones are going to bite you and which ones aren't. There's certain dogs that have a proclivity by their breed. Genetics is actually a real thing. It really is, regardless of what people want to say. And they'll kind of want to go around behind you. They're more comfortable ambushing you. Some dogs are very confrontational. They'll come up front. And so it's not the luck of the draw. You can kind of tell predisposition by the dog. So that's what it's important, because you don't know what you're dealing with. There are certain proclivities within these spiritual communities. One of the things that I learned too, and I know you probably know this, Eric, you could literally move into a house that nobody's ever lived in, and you're literally living on a fairy mound.
Yeah.
And then you have all kinds of hell. Or you move into a school for the jinn. I'm not joking. People think I'm playing around when I talk about that. I'm very careful. Like, I didn't realize the place I moved into, and for the record, the stuff at my house has gone to where it's almost...
It's negligible.
I'm not claiming victory yet, but we have God has calmed it down for us. With his help, we've calmed it down. But I just, you need certain things. I personally believe in Christ, and I think Christ has been a bulwark against this stuff for 2,000 years. I think it works. That's what works. I mean, you're going to go with the tool that works, and Christianity has given you a tool. And so the Muslims claim they have certain things that they do, whatever. But and then the people that deal with the fairies, same thing. But they'll tell you there's two different courts. There's a Seelie court and an unseelie court. The Gaelic word Seelie, meaning clean, and unseelie, meaning unclean. I mean, it's pretty simple. And there have been stories for generations, hundreds of years, thousands of years, of people being taken into the underworld by these fairies. In Iceland, they still believe in elves like it's, the Shims Ma'arif, it's a book that's considered to be a cursed book. It's like a grimoire, in the Arabic community, and it was written by apostates. And you're not supposed to entertain it or anything. But they specifically say that it is guarded by elves. Now, these are Arabs who have accepted the reality of the fire spirits, the jinn, long ago. But they are very specific that particular book is guarded by a race of elves. And when you start going down, there's a type of werewolf that's a jinn, but it is a very specific type. And I don't want to butcher the name. And this is actually a case that Ken Gerhard shared with me. We talked about this. And we talk about it in my book a little bit. And it's called the Salu-Ah. And what the Salu-Ah is a female werewolf, but it's also a jinn, demonic type spirit. That particular being will also fight with a creature called the Nuzguala, depending on what region of the Levant you're in. Nagula, Naguela, Aguela, Ogula, whatever. They all have a different name for it. But they all do distinctly different things. They do different things. And it's important to see, like, hey, okay, this creature that you're dealing with, because you could go after something that's benign, that's really just there. It's not really bothering you or mind, and you could literally attack it. And it could literally be like, why are you attacking me? I've done nothing to you. And then guess what? It's going to retaliate because you started something with it. And people will do that. They will antagonize, like we were talking about earlier. Come at me, brah. What's up? We want to fight, demon. What's up? And then there's all kinds of wackiness ensues, and everybody's like, why did this happen? Well, maybe because this dummy took his shirt off and was swinging it around like he works for Coyote Ugly. Maybe he should stop doing that, because that can actually lead to hauntings and infestations. You're antagonizing and you're bringing these things up.
And you're also turning what may be a benign ghost into a vengeful,
an implacable enemy.
Yeah, because you decided to tempt fate. I mean, that's all you're doing is tempting fate. And then when you get mad when fate smacks you on the back, it's really bizarre to me. And that's why I stopped watching a lot of those video shows, is because
you actually watched them.
I watched when I was younger, but I watched them because I was like, oh, I was interested in the subject. But then I realized, I was like, first, they're not finding anything. And every place they go, they try to have fist fights with demons. I'm not interested in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always tell people, trying to educate people when we do events and we do public ghost hunts, and we do them to educate people, and all the money goes to charity. We don't make a dime. That's not. I want everybody to know that we're not in it to make money. We're in it to try to educate people on the proper way to, if you want to go out investigating, and kind of separating the BS from TV. And I always tell people, if I came in your house and just started yelling at you, how would you react?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna scratch, punch, shoot me, whatever. So it's the same with somebody that previously lived in that house. If you come in just yelling and provoking, it's not going to get you anywhere. And I think that's where some of the demonic things come from. People want to say, well, the 3 scratches, mocking of the Trinity. But also, it's if you come in provoking, okay, you're gonna get scratched, you're gonna get hit, something's gonna happen to you, because it's all about your intention of going in there. And we always go in and we make it known that we're coming in, out of respect, and we just want to connect with the other side and hear what they have to say, because, they lived before us. And so we try to go in always with the intention and the stated intention that, we're here out of respect. And so I don't believe in provoking anything, because like you're talking about, Josh, no matter what it is, fairies, ghosts, they're not going to take kindly to that, and you're going to start a war that you don't know how to win.
Well, I would say that, like, for instance, Rick, he has a practice where he's very careful about provoking ghosts, but you have to have the knowledge of how to do it. Rick Asherstein, and then he has a way to do it that it brings a certain result, because whatever is there isn't just a random benign ghost. It's actually something that is already vengeful, already hateful, already causing problems. So in that situation, it could be a little bit more understanding. But I've seen so many of these, or I haven't seen that many, but I've seen a couple where people will just go into random houses and they'll start immediately like attacking these random, just empty air. And then it's just so confusing to me, because it's like you don't understand what you're messing with, and you're immediately coming at it with hostile energy. And if these things are energy based, you don't know how your energy is going to affect that thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: the one thing that you can do, besides not going around taking your shirt off and screaming at them, the one thing you can do is, if it's not hurting you, if it's not if you're really uncomfortable, you don't want it there. The best thing to do is tell it to leave, in a respectful way. And I say that with all sincerity. Now, if it escalates from that point, because their realm is adjacent to ours, and you don't know what this thing is, what its goal or whatever. Give you an example. A friend of mine, well, I don't want to say friend, that's kind of pushing it. We're an acquaintance. They actually moved into a farmhouse in not Idaho, Indiana. They moved into a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, and they were told by the people that lived there before, hey, this house is haunted. It has a resident ghost. It didn't do anything. For like a year, every now and then they'd hear some creaking, like it would walk across the floorboards and it would make noise. It wasn't rattling chains and it wasn't like freaking out and acting weird or anything like that. But one day it scared their daughter, and I do believe this guy's wife overreacted. So she went around the house saging and telling it to get the heck out and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And to me, it like hardened its resolve. It just made it like want to stay and just hung on. And then it began like a campaign of terror. That's the only way I could describe it. And up to that point, like the little girl even said, look, it didn't do anything. It was just there. Now, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination telling people you should just live in your house with ghosts and demons and just be okay with it. No. But having dealt with these things and dealt with different types, I can tell you they're not all the same. They're not. And they don't all play by the same rules. Now, they're supposed to have rules, but they don't necessarily follow them. Now, somebody asked me about that, and they were being cutesy-poo about it, and they said, oh, really? They don't play by the same rules, huh? Oh, what a shock. I said, people don't either. We know the law. It says right there that the speed limit's 70, but,
People take it as a suggestion.
that's a suggestion. I'm going to go 80, 90. People know that you're not supposed to steal, but they still break into houses and they take things. People know that you're
we
not
still have
supposed
free
to-
will.
Free will, exactly. And so you can tell these things, hey, do this, do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to. And you also have to have faith behind it. Now, you can't just run around saying, hey, Jesus said, blah, 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 blah. Do you know Jesus, or do you heard people say that? Because I had a guy who wasn't Islamic at all, but he worked with an Islamic guy, and he told me, he said, dude, I worked at a warehouse. And he said, my friend who was Islamic, he gave me a prayer to read. And the guy that was actually Filipino. He had he's like, I'm not Islamic. I wasn't a Christian. I wasn't anything. So I started reading this prayer. He goes, and the light started to flicker. And then all of a sudden, a lot of stuff started happening, bad stuff. And I was like, well, dude, I mean, you don't even know what you're reading or what you're doing. Now, by the same token, Tony, your mother gave me this, was that little song for the Buddhist, whatever?
Chudabi.
Yeah. What's it called again?
Well, there's a couple different pairs, but if the one I'm thinking of it's probably Chudabi.
Yeah.
So it's that one that's like sung repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I think the smaller parts of it is like Namo Aida.
Nama Ida Fa.
Yeah.
Nama Ida Fa, yeah. And so it's basically a prayer in Vietnamese. Now, I told my friend, I said, man, his name's Patrick. I said, Patrick, well, imagine if you just, he's Americanized. His parents have been living here since they were young. But I said, imagine if you just took, somebody like you took a Vietnamese Buddhist prayer, you started uttering it. You don't know what it says. You don't know what it is because you don't speak the language. I mean, you took somebody's Islamic prayer and you don't even know what it is. Now, here's what's really messed up. Another friend of ours, okay, this guy was from Kuwait. He actually looked at the prayer that he was given and he said, dude, this has absolutely nothing to do with anything. He goes, I don't even believe this is in the Quran. And it was some sort of like, I think it was one of the hadiths, but I'm not 100% sure. And he said, dude, this could actually, cause problems. This could exacerbate the situation. He's like, I don't know who this guy was. He was like, well, it was a guy I used to work with. And he goes, well, and the guys that he was working with, guy he used to work with named Hakeem. He said, well, Hakeem, my friend Ahmad told him, he said, Hakeem didn't do you any favors. I don't know what he's into, but this is not something you should be saying. And I didn't even get into this was years ago when I was young. And the guy was working with Scorpion over at like Whataburger or something. They had he had a part-time job there for a while. and it was one of Scorpion's coworkers' brother. And this guy goes, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be saying that. And I said, yeah, because I took the prayer, and I just, the next day I was working at the club, and I gave it to, my friend, and I said, can you translate that? Did not know as much Arabic then as I do now, but he said, yeah. I don't know what this is. He goes, this isn't something, though, that you should be going around your house saying. It's a provocation. It's basically you're asking this entity to fight with you. You're telling it, that you'll destroy it and all this other crap. Not the smartest thing to do, but this is the kind of stuff that people get into. And then they have no idea how to shut that door. They open the door, and they have no idea how to shut that door. Do you get a lot of that? I mean, are Ouija boards? I mean, I get that too. I get a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. We've gotten plenty of people over the years have called us, wanting us to come in and do an investigation at their private residence because they're playing around with things they know nothing about, whether it be a Ouija board or, cause with something like a Ouija board, spirit boards, things like that, even some of the more modern equipment that we use, you don't always know what you're calling in and what's actually responding to you. And like we were talking about before, church spirits, they can come across and, act like a little girl and maybe even sometimes show themselves as like a little girl to kind of let your guard down and then, wreak havoc. And so, yeah, we've had quite a few people over the years contact us and we, but also the problem is when you tell them, okay, you need to stop what you're doing, stop using the Ouija board, stop using dowsing rods, stop drawing these things in. And then but they don't want to. And they keep on and they keep calling us and saying, well, more things are happening because, we have lives and schedules and we have to schedule a month out or whatever to go investigate. But they, the tarot cards also, but they keep doing it because for whatever reason they get some sort of thrill out of it or some sort of high off of it.
Work.
And we're supposed to come in and clean up their mess.
Yeah.
And and plenty of my friends, I don't do private investigations anymore, but because I have lots of other stuff going on, but still get calls and still talk to people, and I'll refer them to other teams that are really good and really experienced in going in, because sometimes you also get mental health issues with some of these people as well, and so you have to know how to kind of handle that part of it too. But yeah, I've got plenty of friends that specialize in private investigations, and they've got a whole network of people they can call in, for if it is something evil or something beyond their control. But yeah, I hear stories all the time from them talking about people messing around with things that they shouldn't and drawing things in. And, they probably never had anything ever happen in their house. But because they started watching some of these shows, they decided to pick up tarot cards or spirit board or, like I said, dowsing rods and start, contacting these things and sometimes provoking as well. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't understand the high they get off of it, I guess. And so it's just weird that once somebody who you've called for help tells you to stop doing something. I worked in medicine for 20 years. I was a medic on the ambulance. Okay, well, if you stab yourself in the foot and it hurts and we sew you up, don't do it again. And the next week you do it again. I can't help you. At some point in time, you're going to do some kind of permanent damage that nobody can fix. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And then some people don't want to hear anything that we had to say. I've had quite a few investigations that we've gone in to try to help out. But in the meantime, they're calling the Psychic Friends Network in California, and these people are telling them over the phone, you have a demon, and there's 17 demons in your house, and they're going to, try to have you sacrifice your 2-year-old and all this other BS.
Well, that's just a start. I mean, that's just your go-to of how you would get rid of all that.
Madam Cleo, call me now.
Yeah. And instead of, we've gone in and investigated, and the lady wouldn't let us come back and present our evidence. And the evidence that we caught was that their Wi-Fi router was giving off 1,500 milligauss of electromagnetic field. Well, anything over a couple of hundred can make you hallucinate, visual and auditory hallucinations. And so, she didn't want us to debunk anything. And not saying that because the previous people who lived in that house had seen some Civil War soldiers, and the land was kind of in an area where that would make sense. And then some of the other people in the neighborhood had seen full dress Civil War soldiers walking down the street in the middle of the night. But no, because we weren't telling her that it was demonic and that it could be something explainable through science, she didn't want to hear any of it and would not answer our phone calls or anything after that.
Yeah, that's so weird. It's like they want to be haunted or they want to be traumatized.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. They get off on it in some way, shape, or form.
Like, I don't know.
It's like they want to have it be something that is removed from them, that they didn't cause and have nothing to do with, so that you have to deal with it. You know, like, no, it's not my Wi-Fi router, because then that would mean that I have to make a change in my life, and I'm responsible for this. No, it's something that's just here, and by the way, you fix it, and then I can go live my life how I see fit.
Or they think of themselves as like, I'm special, and you're telling me I'm not special, and it could
Right.
Yeah. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, because they're liking the attention they're getting from family or friends or whatever. They're all, running to their beck and call, oh, you poor thing, you're having issues. And yeah, I don't know. I don't get people like that. Somebody in the chat asked about mental health and possession. From what I understand with possession, if you have mental health issues or even issues with addiction, you kind of break yourself down and open yourself to things to attach and for demonic oppression. And I actually have a guest coming on my show this week that'll be out on Wednesday. That he's a demonologist for the Catholic Church, and we talk all about that.
Oh, that was, thank you, Bernard Fox, for that comment.
Sonia Keese is in the chat. For a second there, I saw her pop in. Sonia, we have a package that we gave you that got sent back to us. We would keep it, but we have plenty of merchandise already. So otherwise, I would just keep it and wear it, but it doesn't fit me. So if Sonia, and I hate to interrupt, but Sonia, I just saw her, in the chat. So your package did get returned. So I sent you a message. You didn't check it. It's on the messenger. So
She said she's camping right now.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. Look, give us your information, Sonia, so we can send it back out to you. All right. So that's anyway. And Miriam Nunn said something here that I thought was interesting. She said that there is no prayer. There is no special prayer in Islam to provoke anything. Yeah. I didn't think there was. And my friend pretty much explained to this guy that that's not correct. Yeah. So he was like, dude, this is not a prayer. I don't know what that person was doing. There are some bad people out there too.
Yeah.
I've seen people like, a friend of mine who doesn't speak Spanish years ago went to a supposed curandera, but it was a bruja down in Mexico on the Acuña. And he went down there and he's like, yeah, I had this woman who did a blessing on me, and she wrote down all these words and stuff, dude. And I was like, you just got cursed, dude. I mean, literally, we were looking at that and I was like, that's a curse. I mean, I don't. And then he started seeing a shadow figure that would follow him around. Went so far, even like one time where he thought he saw his own shadow move off of a wall, which freaked him out. And that went on for a few months. And then he finally went into the church and got blessed and did all kinds of stuff. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's really freaky. Like, people don't know. Like, I've seen people wearing pendants too. Like this is Saint Benedict. This is a Saint Benedict pendant. And it's got the symbol on there, whatever. It's from the Benedictine monks, and you can go and get it blessed or whatever. But I've seen people wearing pendants that they had no idea what they were wearing, and I've told people, I was like, "Do you know what that even is? Do you have any clue? Or are you just wearing it because you think it looks cool? It looks dope, yo." I mean, because you're going to be thinking it's cool whenever something really bad happens to you.
Or they get tattoos.
They get tattoos,
or,
yeah.
like all kind of different lettering, all kinds of different stuff. It's really a shame how little thought people put into things that could really affect them later on supernaturally.
Yeah.
I think it's because, this isn't a topic that a lot of people speak about, or it's one of those topics that even though it is, a little bit more in the open, it's not one of those things that people look at correctly. They don't look at it in a way that they should be taking it with an open-mindedness of which they say like, oh, maybe this is real and I should treat this with caution. They just kind of poo-poo it and say whatever, it doesn't matter. And then when it affects them, they want guys like Eric here to come and save their lives. When it's like, if you would have just taken an ounce or maybe even just an inch of care, maybe none of this would have happened to you.
I think a lot of that starts with how they're raised too, because I think there are a lot of parents out there who they have something paranormal happen in their house or whatever, but they don't know how to deal with it. So they just don't. And they tell their kid it's your imagination or whatever. And the kids are kind of taught out of anything paranormal. And even though they've had experiences. And so they're just taught to be afraid of it and ignore it. And so then when it comes down to it, if they get curious, they've never known anything about the paranormal whatsoever. And they go to places like TV shows, to learn about the paranormal when they should go to actual people who, not saying that, we have the answers at all and there's no such thing as an expert for sure. But, I've seen things and experienced things over 20 something years. And if I can't deal with it, I have a whole network of people that I know, that would have better answers and can help.
Yeah. And yeah, we just got a person that just typed something in. Did you get rid of it? Yeah, somebody just typed something in. Yeah. I don't know if maybe you got rid of the wrong one there. Hold on one second, folks.
I mean, what's their name? I'm scrolling through.
I'm going to text it to you because I don't want to draw attention to it. Take that comment down, please. So, anyways, folks, so Eric, what you do, you've said that you had a lot of experiences of your own. Like, can you give us a couple of what happened to you?
Yeah. I've been touched many times on investigations. Not too long ago, we were investigating a place in Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee called the Thomas House. And I was standing with my back, kind of leaning on the door frame with my back to the hallway. And everybody else in the room was sitting down on the beds and things. It's a bed and breakfast. So all the rooms have beds and chairs in them and things. And I was the only one standing up. And I felt like I got poked in the butt cheek. And then across one of our pieces of equipment, it said, sit down. And that's enough correlation to me. So I sat down, but I was the only one standing up. So that was interesting. I had a ghost horse run through me one time on a property. That's the only way I can explain it. We were at this plantation house and we were walking across the field about 3 or 4 in the morning. And 2 of my friends were about 10 foot behind me. And we heard galloping and like a horse whinny. And they were like, do you hear that? I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden I get this like cold, staticky breeze go through me. And out the right side of my body, you could see the grass moving in a straight line and we could still hear the horse gallop. And my 2 friends come running up and they're like, did you just have a ghost horse run through you? I'm like, that's what it seems like. I don't know, with the galloping and things. That was an interesting experience. Yeah, so many experiences in my life. I worked in medicine for 20 years and I worked at a haunted nursing home for a couple of years. And that was an interesting place. The side of the building that I worked in had been a nursing home for about 40 years. So there's no telling how many people had passed away there.
I was going to say, like, how do you feel about the energy in the nursing home? Because we worked one for security, and it never sat right with me. Like, I never felt comfortable walking around in there. I mean, it wasn't they had a lot of mirrors that face each other in the main hall, so it wasn't like a great comfortable place anyway. Yeah. But like just the aura there just never made me sit and feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's a really thick energy, especially in an old building like that had been a nursing home for like 40 something years. Now it's been a nursing home for, almost 60. And to just think how many people, went there for their last days. Yeah, it was really thick. We had everything from hearing voices. We would walk around and try to find if there was a patient up or something. Footsteps walking up behind you because I work night shift. And you go into a room and there was a night light in the bathroom. And many times I'd walk into a room and you would see what looked like somebody was sitting in the wheelchair because we're in the dark because everybody's in bed. And you would see the head and shoulders in the wheelchair, and then you turn on the light, there's nobody there. We had a lady when I worked there who would, anytime she started screaming about the man in the corner, I mean, she's trying to climb out of the bed. She's so scared of this guy in the corner, and there's nobody there. Within 24 to 48 hours, somebody would die in the nursing home every time she started screaming about the man in the corner. Yeah. Weird things like that. But I work in the medical world, period. I was a medic on the ambulance and worked emergency medicine for 15 years in my career. And going into, I tell you, the heaviest energy, you're talking about energy in places, the heaviest is going into some of these hospice places where people, go for their last days of cancer or whatever. And those places are really, it's one of those things of like, it's like a repelling magnet. As soon as you walk in, you feel like, I just need to turn around and walk right back out the door. Yeah, those places are crazy.
Do you tend to find more trickster ghosts or maybe like more malevolent ghosts in areas like that where there's either elderly, because like bacteria they go, or diseases, they'll go for like the children or the elderly first because of the weaker immune system? Do you think did you ever find something similar like that with malevolent ghosts in these resident homes?
More nasty spirits, yeah, they tend to be in places like that, in old hospitals, and especially if it's a place that houses mental health patients. I've been in a few of those hospitals that had mental health wings. And of course, they're open now for investigating or whatever. And you'll get a lot more of the trickster type spirits in those places. One of the things I find interesting too is that 90% of the places that are reportedly haunted are where people sleep. So hotels, hospitals, homes, the majority of the places that you'll come across that claim to be haunted are where people will have slept throughout the years.
Do you know why that is? What do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's because when we sleep, I mean, even science doesn't understand the function of sleep and things like that in a lot of different ways. I think it's when we sleep is when we're probably most connected to that other dimension or whatever you want to call it that's adjacent to ours, where a lot of these things come from. I think we're very well connected to that. And I've had dreams of loved ones that were loved ones who have passed over that was very lucid. I knew I was dreaming, and I had conversations with them and it was real. Even though I was sleeping, it was very real to me. And I think also with I think your spirit can go outside of your body while you're sleeping. I think that's why a lot of people have sleep paralysis. I think that is, you're paralyzed because when your spirit comes back in your body, you're still conscious spiritually, but your body's not conscious yet.
So you
get a lot of sleep
function.
paralysis.
Yeah,
your spirit's not connected back to your actual physical being, and so you can't move there for a few seconds.
I think that when it's exactly what you just said. That makes a lot of sense because I've said this before, and I've said it on my show. When you sleep, a lot of people don't realize that sleeping, you're actually out of your body. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, dreams are really you're just out of your body, and you're experiencing things outside of your body, and you don't always stay in this realm. You go to other places. You enter into alternate realities, alternate dimensions, whatever. And Loki just said most vulnerable when you sleep. You're right, because when you are asleep, that's sleep paralysis. I mean, that's easy for something to attack you or come at you or whatever. And so you have this whole sort of vulnerability when you're laying there. And I think that you are not conscious enough or aware enough to fight off whatever it is that's trying to harass you. And it does suck an energy from you. And a lot of times when people live in a haunted house, one of the main things that gets reported, and I know it gets reported to you, it gets reported to us, is the nightmares.
Yeah.
They report it as a nightmare, but it's not necessarily a nightmare. I don't believe that's what that is. I believe that we are dealing with, like, okay, so like for another example, like we worked in a nursing home. Well, it was, what's it called? Not Habitat for, it's a, I forgot what they're called.
Well, I mean, should we say the name of the
Nah,
company?
probably not because it's a client, but it was down South Austin, and it used to be a nursing home.
Yeah.
And
But
people,
it was bought out by this housing development.
yeah,
like
and people died there. And a little known fact is that there was a nurse that actually killed a couple people there, maybe 2 or 3, right? Didn't she murder them or something?
I think so.
Like they said that she killed them. And
Wow.
what's even more, what's going on, dude? Okay, did you pull that or something? Sorry, folks. We're all discombobulated today. We've had a really odd and rough day, and none of us have eaten, and we're all. But there was a nurse there that had killed some people. And anyway, I never checked into that. I don't know. I didn't even go and bother to what the whole story was. That place really bothered me. I didn't like working there. And some of the residents that were there, they were homeless people who had gotten a chance at a place to live, and some of them were mentally ill. And some of them, like one guy, his name was Oscar, he had schizophrenia. He's deceased, but he was sitting there one time in the library, and I was reading a book or a magazine, and he was sitting across from me, and I hear a voice. I've talked about this on the show before, I'm sure. And his mouth didn't move. And then I was like, wait a minute, this guy's like schizophrenic. What? He's not a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out, dude. Like I went straight back to the control room where the tech that was working there, he was laughing. He was like, dude, he's like, I see you've met Oscar. He goes, and then he says he's demonically obsessed / borderline possessed. And at that point in my life, I wasn't real sure about what the difference was. I was in my 20s. And this guy, David, I worked with, he told me about it and said, look, this is the guy that actually helped convert my brother from Satanism to Christianity. He was a Buddhist by philosophy, but Christian by his faith. And I know people think, oh, that's weird. Well, because Buddhism isn't technically a religion. It's actually a philosophy, yeah. But it's kind of become people's religion. It's kind of evolved. But, so he told me, he said that guy he has a demon around him that messes with him. And he sees what the demon wants him to see. And he's like, I talked to some of his relatives, and he used to be like a normal guy. And in fact, the guy was no dummy. The guy had gone to law school and got a degree, but just didn't do anything with it. And then he kind of lost his mind, and then he became homeless for years, and then he ended up in that place. But when you look at the prevalence of these beings, I worked at a retirement home up here in North Austin for a few months, and the same thing. Like I would see shadows and things moving down the hall. I saw a shadow come out of a woman's room who had just passed away. And I was standing in the hallway, and the people were in there trying to help her. And it was pretty obvious to me she was about to expire, and I saw this shadow thing move. I don't know what that was, but I mean, it was, and as a young guy, I think I was like in my late 20s or something when that happened. And, you're right about the prevalence of these entities around places where people sleep, like motels. That's why so many hotels are haunted. But you get all this energy from these different people that come and go in these places. I got a story from a bed and breakfast that supposedly is haunted right outside of San Antonio, and they were telling me all this weird stuff that happened there. I guess I need to go on your show, and so I could talk about some of these ghost
Right.
encounters, and I could just give them all out there. But yeah, I mean, like when you were young, though, and you were looking for answers, did you, and this is a very personal question, and forgive me if it's a little too personal, but did you dream about your dad after he passed away?
I never dreamt about him. For whatever reason, I don't know. We had experiences after he passed, in our garage, we would hear tools moving around and things like that. And my mom would go out there and there would be nobody there. And she told me that one time she saw, we have this big picture window in our living room, and she saw both of my parents are gone now. I inherited their house. So, but anyway, she saw what she thought was my dad's shadow on the outside of the picture window go by. And that was her, she took that as his way of saying goodbye. And our TV would turn on and off and things like that on its own. And it never did that before he passed away. Now, after my mother passed away, I've had quite a few dreams with her, like the lucid dreams I was talking about. And I've had two of my aunts pass away, and I've had the exact same dream setting. It's in it's outside in a park is what it looks like. And there's a park bench, and my mom is sitting there, and I walk up and said hi to her, and we're talking. And like I said, it's lucid. Like I'm really talking to my mom, just I'm asleep. And I dreamt that with her 3 or 4 times, and we had different conversations in those 3 or 4 times that I had that dream with her. And then when my Aunt Anna died, I hadn't had that dream for a long time. I had it again. My mom was there, and then my aunt comes walking around the tree, and she was very sick, had a lot of health issues, but she comes around the tree looking healthy as can be. The same thing happened with my other Aunt Pam, who passed away, and I haven't had that dream since. I had another weird, interesting interaction. One of my cousins died of a heroin overdose. And the week leading up to her memorial, I was noticing all these cabinet doors in my kitchen were open all the time. And I'm like, I don't leave the cabinet doors open. This is not something I do. But I would come in my kitchen and 3 or 4 cabinet doors would be open. I'm like, what is going on? And so then I had a dream the night before her funeral. And I got up out of my bed in the dream, and I walked out into my hallway, and my cousin was standing in my hallway. She walked out my back door, and right as she did, she waved goodbye, walked out the door and shut it. I didn't have cabinet doors opening again after that. So I guess that was her way of getting my attention. And then I had this dream and kind of put it all together. Okay, now, she's good. So
What do you think about this? I had a friend here in Austin who her boyfriend passed away. And we all worked downtown together, and I was like maybe 30 when this happened, and I wasn't working downtown anymore, but we used to work together. And I knew her boyfriend. His name was Josh. He was a good guy. Not just because his name was Josh, and mine is too, but he was a good guy. And I just remember her having like a lot of dreams about him. And the dreams, it was really weird because her house, she inherited it from her dad who had passed away. And she always would talk about to me and to Josh and to the other guys that we were friends with, her guys and gals, that her dad would haunt that house. But she would talk about him doing things that went beyond mischievous and things that he didn't really do in his life, which were kind of like belligerent, like knocking bottles onto the ground and breaking dishes and things that I was thinking, I was like, he would never do that. Like, he was not that kind of guy. Like, I knew him. I wasn't like great friends with him or anything, but I never saw him anywhere near. Like, and I asked my brother about it, and I know Scorpion's in the chat too. And I know y'all remember this guy. Her dad's name was Steven, and he was not a belligerent guy. He didn't drink, but he wasn't like, oh, you shouldn't drink or anything like that. And her mother and him were separated. They separated, and then it was kind of weird. Like, they would still go out, like, on dates, but they didn't live together. It was kind of a weird situation. Let's put it that way. And I guess it worked for them, but she was very adamant that she didn't think that was him. She thought that that's not him. There's something else that was there while he was alive. And he said that the house was haunted. And this is weird. And so I just wrote 2 books, and I'm not plugging the books, but I'm telling you, my guest, Eric, that I wrote 2 books, but my next project is going to be, I can't decide whether it's going to be another cryptid, like of different types of cryptids, or if it's going to be ghosts. But my next project, and we're all on board, we've been talking about how we're going to do this. In fact, the Dogman book is being printed as we speak, but I'm ready to start on the next project. We're going to take a few months, and then we're going to put together some stories, and I'd like to interview you for that, because But this particular person, I don't really know if I should. Her name's Sandy. I don't think she cares. She's an old friend, longtime friend, and she had said, "Look, I'm seeing Josh in my dreams, but the last time I saw him, he tried to choke me." And at that point, right there, I was with my friend Squid, and I was with D, my brother. I know we all got nicknames, whatever, from the old days, but we all kind of were talking to her, and we were like, "I don't think that that's correct. Like, he's not that kind of guy."
Yeah, D said here, their post-death behaviors didn't match up.
Yeah, it didn't match up. Yeah, see, he remembers that. I didn't see anything in that house. I spent the night in that house with her and her boyfriend a couple times, hanging out, after parties, stuff like that. I was wild back in the day, I was young. But I never saw anything. I never felt anything. Now, other people, like my friend Tank, he claimed to have seen something there. I personally did never see anything there, and they were like, "Yeah, it's haunted. There's some weird stuff that goes on there, blah, blah, blah." And some of the guys I worked with downtown, one of our friends came from California, stayed there, claimed something grabbed his leg. I mean, it happens. But I don't believe that what she was encountering was her dad. And then when Josh passed away, which was really weird, like he died very weird. Like he's like, "I got a headache." They take him to the hospital. They were down on the coast, I think, or something. And he ends up like on the way home or something. He stopped in the hospital in one of the towns down, like Corpus or something. And next thing you know, he's dead.
Wow.
And I think it was like he had an aneurysm or something, and it was sudden. It was real sudden. And it was something that I think the doctors had said he'd had for a while. Of course, he used to do MMA, and so he got hit in the head. He never went pro or anything, but he fought and made some money, But he coached too. He coached wrestling. But I just thought, and I told her, I said, okay, he could be a violent person, but he was never that way with her. And I told her, I said, he would not do that. I don't believe that was him. And so eventually she sold the house and she moved. So one day she reached out to me this is like 10 years ago or something. And then she reached out to me about, 7-8 years ago. And she said, "I was thinking about trying to talk to, I was driving by the other day, the old neighborhood. And she's like, I was thinking about with her current boyfriend, who she's now married to. And she says, I was thinking about stopping and talking to the current owners. They were outside watering the lawn." And I said, "Why didn't you?" She goes, I didn't want them to say that they were seeing him or my dad.
Yeah.
So it freaked her out. So I told her, I said, "Look, you've driven by there a couple times. Obviously, you want to talk to these people." I said, "If you get another chance and the person is outside, stop and talk to them. Just see what they say." So she saw a woman, going out to the car with her phone or whatever, or coming out of the car with her phone and a bag of groceries. And I told her, I said, "Did you talk to her?" She said, "Yes, I did. I pulled up and I kind of waved. The lady kind of looked at me. She knew who I was." She said that eventually she recognized her, because the house had been sold twice. I think it was like 4 years. Probably because it was haunted. Well, the woman comes over and she's like, "Do I know you?" And she's like, No. My name is Sandy and I just want to talk to you." She's like, "I used to live here." And she goes, "Oh, really?" "Yeah." She's like, "You guys are remodeled. It's very pretty." She's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I told the people that I sold the house to that it was haunted." And the lady goes, "Uh-huh." And then she's like, now, before she could say the next sentence, she's like, and she just got those words out. This woman went on to say, "Yeah, it's haunted. We've had some issues here." She's like, "Absolutely. My son has seen some things. He's a teenager, now." She's like, he was 12 when we moved in. Now he's 16 or 14, whatever. Been living there for a couple of years. She's like, "Yeah, but we like the house." And she's like, "What do these spirits look like?" Nothing like, it wasn't her dad and it wasn't Josh. Okay.
Yeah.
Which I was not surprised. Okay. It was something else and it was a shadow or something, like, what is that to you? And I know what I think it is, but like for the audience's sake and for you, Eric, what do you think it was? What is that to you?
I think sometimes around death and dying, you can bring things can come in. There's some sort of door open for other things to come in. Especially like we were talking about with oppression and these nasty spirits being hitchhikers sometimes, and they'll take advantage of people who are having issues. And there are some stories out there where people claim that some of these nasty entities can even exacerbate health issues to cause people to die or even cause people's death.
They're parasitic, right?
Yeah, very parasitic. And it doesn't even have to be something that's necessarily what you call religiously wise demonic or an inhuman spirit. It can be a spirit that was human at one point in time that just has gained and grown in power for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just I asked her, you know, like I haven't talked to her in a while. Was the roommate of a really good friend of mine downtown, who I still talk to him every now and then. Her and her husband lived with him for a while before they bought a house down south of town. But I asked her one day because I ran into her at my friend Arash's bar, and I was in there eating. You know, they have really good food, but we were in there eating dinner, and I think you two were probably with us, and I probably met her. She's a big, tall girl.
Yeah, I think I remember.
Blondish, brown hair, big, tall girl. She looks like a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
But she used to be like a power lifter, workout all the time. But so we were talking. I was talking to her, you know, a couple years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, the last time I saw her. And she said, she's like, yeah, I don't believe that's now. She's like, I've come to the conclusion that that's not what it was. But she did have a dream where she saw her dad and her brother, who's deceased too. She's had a lot of death, unfortunately. And her ex-boyfriend, they were all together and they were on the beach. Her dad used to have a place down in Galveston, and they were all walking along the beach together. And she said she hugged them all, and they said, one day we'll see you again. And it was like very powerful and real. And I said, yeah, that sounds more like, I didn't know her brother. He died when she was young. I didn't know her then. But I said, that sounds more like Steven and Josh. That doesn't sound like whatever was in that house was imitating them to get energy from you. That was my opinion. That's what I told her. I didn't want to lead people astray and say that that's not, you know, but that just seems like, I don't know. It just, yeah.
So you said it kind of escalated after her dad died?
Yeah, after her dad died, I remember that when he died, and it was like he had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And he had a very unhealthy diet. He was skinny too, dude. It wasn't like he was, but he was diabetic. And he didn't take care of himself, and he would just eat anything. And he wouldn't gain weight, but he had really high cholesterol, really bad, you know. And I remember going over there one day and him, you know, her boyfriend at the time, Josh, giving him a lecture, like saying, hey, you know, you need to stop doing this, doing that, you know, whatever. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, I'm skinny. Look at me. I'm fit, you know, and he takes off his shirt. And, of course, you know, he's over here messing with me. He's like, we'll take your shirt off. I'm like, no, thank you. You know? And I'm like, of course. But my cholesterol wasn't through the roof, and I wasn't diabetic, you know.
Right.
And I told him, I said, Steven, you have a lot of problems. You know, you got to whatever. A very outgoing, gregarious guy. And then he just didn't wake up one day. And then after that, there was already something there, though, because I remember her dad talking about there being a ghost there. Like there was something in the house, and it would scare the dogs and freak out. They had dogs and cats, and it would just freak them out. And then I talked to them about this because this happened at my house, Eric, and oh my gosh, I don't know if you've heard. I've had 6 different people come on the show and talk about what happened at our house from when we lived in South Austin. The fish would freaking react and just go nuts and start spinning around. And one time I witnessed this with like 2 other guys that were my roommates at the time. And we were sitting there watching a football game, and I'll never forget, like we all got excited, something had happened. We're like, yeah. And then I look over, and there's like a little mini tornado going on in my aquarium, and everybody was like frozen, just staring at it. And we're like, what the heck is that? You know, it's like in the late 90s, you know, not everybody had a cell phone, you know. But it was crazy. And so I was talking to him about this, you know, her dad, and he said, yeah, something messes with my fish. And he goes, I'll be in the backyard, because the backyard was real nice. He had made this really like little oasis kind of place, whatever. And we'd go back there and hang out and stuff, you know. And I just remember one day him talking about a ghost being there and seeing something. And then her mother coming over every now and then and saying that she saw something in the back there that looked like an Asian woman, but it wasn't. She's like, it looked kind of like an Asian woman, but I knew it wasn't a woman. You know what I mean? She said the face looked like weird, like it was distorted. But what he was seeing looked completely different. Like he saw what he thought was an African-American guy at one point. And then another time he thought he saw like a Caucasian dude. Like these were full-bodied apparitions. And I'm going like, what is going on here? I never saw anything there, but I was never there a whole lot. But my friends would sometimes go over there, and they like I said, they worked downtown with us, and so we became friends. But you know, it wasn't like something that I was around all the time with them, but we did exchange notes. And so whenever her dad died, whatever was there started taking the form of her dad. That was my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it was to gain her trust, because then when Josh passed away, go ahead.
I would wonder, with it escalating right after her father's death, maybe that was her father there for a moment, like causing havoc to try to get them to move out because there was something evil there. And maybe that's his way of getting their attention of like, I'm just going to break things and try to scare y'all to get out of here because you need to leave. You know what I'm saying? And trying to get their attention that way because he could. And that's why it escalated, you know, after he passed away. And so maybe he wasn't necessarily stuck there, but he figured out when he crossed over that whatever that was that they were seeing, you know, was something nasty that they needed to get out of the house.
Well, she also had a dream of Josh dying too, which was
wow.
Like she told one of the people that we used to work with downtown, her name was Samantha, but she told her, and she's like, "Hey, you're into ghosts and stuff like that," and I'm like, I guess, you know, at the time I was like always talking about weird stuff, you know, and so they were like, what do you think of this? Do you think that this is real? And I told her, one of the other bartenders, I was like, could be. I mean, I've had dreams that came true. And she's like, Sandy's very worried about it. She thinks it's like a real thing. And then when she came back and, you know, after her boyfriend had passed away, she's like, I knew it. I saw it. I knew it was going to happen. She didn't know how, because in the dream, she just saw him laying there like on a beach.
Yeah.
But he didn't die on the beach. That's what's weird. Like he died on the trip coming back from the beach. I don't know. So I don't know exactly how that works. Now, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I don't know if you're into this, Eric, but they were saying that alternate realities too, like this is what this person says, all right? And I will say this. They are a physics major. Like, so they you know, that's their thing.
Yeah.
But he said that, you know, and he told us, you know, as a team, or he was talking to me and Tony, and he said, it's weird because like, he's like, I believe, this is what he said. He believes that when you have dreams of the future, it's a possible,
reality.
Yeah, like a possible reality. It's not necessarily the reality, but you're seeing something through that space-time continuum. And then I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole because it got real deep, and I was all like, "Yeah, man, this acid's really kicking in." I'm joking, folks. I didn't do that. I did not. I'm kidding, folks. I joke. Okay. No, I was completely sober, and we were sitting there. And he was just telling us that. I mean, it was, and of course, there again, that was at my friend's hangout bar, whatever. And he was telling us all this stuff, and I was just like, that makes sense. Like because I had already kind of wondered about that before. That was something that I had thought about. What are your thoughts on that, Eric?
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I've had dreams, going back to the dream thing of things that were very real at the time. I think we all have. Where even I had a dream one time where like I woke up bawling my eyes out because of what happened in the dream, and thinking it was real at the time in the dream, and didn't even know I was dreaming, and so maybe we are getting a glimpse into, you know, a parallel Earth, and also with the Mandela effect, without going down that steep rabbit hole.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but I think and physicists are kind of on board with this too, that sometimes the timelines kind of cross over and things change in our world with like the Mandela effect that shouldn't. And so, yeah, I think there could be different versions of us in different parallel realities. And like you said, maybe in another reality, her and him went on to get married, and he's living. And in this reality, it was his time to go. Yeah, I find it interesting. Go down those rabbit holes for sure.
Speaking of the Mandela effect, I was talking to my wife about this one earlier, and we were talking about Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker, and I remember Tammy on there crying and her makeup running. Jim was a good man, and I remember him. I remember him dying.
Yeah.
Now she's passed away, and he's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, here's another weird thing that I wanted to throw at you. Now, have you heard of a case like this? This one was out of Kansas City, Missouri. And I got this one, and I'm going to probably talk about this one on in my book. I got to do some more research on it. And there was a guy that was on Coast to Coast one day, and I was listening to this, and the guy talked about this case, and then I actually did some research, and I found a case. I found that case and the people that he was talking about, but then I went down, like you said, the rabbit hole, and they said, "Look, there's another case very similar to ours." And I actually located this person via a large group that I was in, and I looked them up, and then they were in a group that I was in together, whatever. So I picked my spot, and I asked them a question, and I said, "Look, you claim that you had a haunting, that you were being haunted by yourselves." Now, I know that sounds really weird, but it's not out of the realm of possibility when it comes to alternate realities, because what are we dealing with here? This particular case was weird because they had two different people come to them. One was a psychic and one was a remote viewer. And they both told them independently of one another that they were actually being haunted by the alternate reality of themselves. Have you heard of anything like that before I go any further?
Yes and no. There's a theory out in the ghost world now that has been brought forth that people are testing about us going to locations, or even in your own house, leaving your own energies there. And then when some paranormal things happen, it's actually you from the past. And there's been some investigators who have gone to like haunted jails and things a couple of times, and they'll go and they'll get their name on equipment, and it sounds just like their voice, and they've been there before. And so the theory is that, we go in there hyped up to investigate, and there's lots of, energy put out. And so we kind of make that impression on the environment. So when we come back to that place again, some of the things that happen are just us from a previous time that we were there because of the energy imprint. So kind of along the same lines, but I've never heard of the alternate you in another dimension. Now, I have heard many stories of doppelgangers and people coming face to face with their own doppelganger and just being completely baffled in, what is going on,
The house that I lived in, Eric, there were doppelgangers. We would see each other. It was me, my brother, Scorpio, Pete. Everybody lived with Willie. All of my friends, Tony, you and Anthony, you guys.
Caleb, Squid.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Had doppelgangers. They would think, and they would see me and other people, and I'd tell them, "No, I'm not there. I'm at the club." And let me put my hat back on. My hair looks terrible, folks. I know I haven't gotten a haircut. I'm afraid if I had COVID, I want to give it to somebody. But
isn't that when Willie, didn't he see a doppelganger of you, and then he refused to go back into the house?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it was no, that wasn't why he didn't go back in the house. He did see that though. Also, Pete thought he heard and saw D, and I think Scorpio Scorpio's actually in the studio in the other room. Hey, Scorp, come here. I'm going to make sure I don't mess this up, but we talked about it on the show, and I think it was just let him sit down right here, and he can tell it. He can just tell the story of what happened.
headphones and
Yeah, you got to have the headphones so you can hear. So you can hear Eric. We'll get a first hand here. Okay, hand the camera
All right.
over. So tell the audience, Scorp, what happened when you saw me that wasn't me.
yeah, it was like one of the first nights I stayed at the house after I moved in, and I was asleep in the room on the futon. I woke up, and I was about to get up and go to the restroom, like most people usually do when they first wake up. And as I was about to get up, I saw you step from like your bedroom in front of the door, look at me, nod your head like saying, "What's up?" And then you walked off and went towards the kitchen. And when I sat up even further, I actually saw you laying on that little love seat that you like to lay on when we lived back at that house in South Austin.
No, it wasn't a love seat. It was a full
couch,
Yeah.
or what? It was a white couch. I remember that it was white. Everybody signed it too.
Oh yeah, I remember that at the back of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But you were laying on that after I just saw you walk towards the kitchen, so it kind of tripped me out. And instead of going to the bathroom, I just kind of laid back down, put the cover back over my head, and went back to sleep. And I told you about it after I
Yeah,
we all woke
Scorp's
up.
famous for not really giving a crap, except for the Church of the Forgotten,
Now that
where you actually cheesed up and I had to come pick you up like a little
But
baby.
any other time, like a ghost will wake him up. Literally, it sounds like I'm making a joke, but in that same house, he would get woken up by something shaking his foot, and it wouldn't be anyone in the house. And he'd just roll over and go back to sleep. Like he knew what it was, that it was something in the house. He just didn't. He was like, well, whatever.
And then
I'll be there.
Willie's like 6'5", big tall guy, from Louisiana. He's Creole. He's an African American guy, a really good friend of mine. I come home and he's in his car, refusing to go inside
Yeah.
unless I went inside with him. And I'm like, dude, I mean, you're over here like,
Yeah, if he wasn't sitting in his car, he was sitting on the patio.
on the
waiting
yeah,
for us to
yeah.
get
He did
up.
that a couple times. I mean, like I felt
Yeah.
bad for him. And then my friend from Germany, he said he saw what looked like a child or something. And then there was this other incident, where somebody saw you. I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh no, that was Willie.
That was Willie.
Willie saw you.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. He didn't see me. That's what Tony was referring to. But anyways, the weird thing is about all this is that none of us saw our own doppelgangers. Now, I have had a few people tell me that they've seen their own doppelganger. As a woman in Illinois who saw her own doppelganger, and then this entity, the horrific thing. I'm not going to get into it tonight. It's a whole show by itself. Wanting for her to do something to herself, and it kept telling her, and then it got to the point where, get this, Eric, she was looking in the mirror, and it would talk to her, like she's like brushing her hair, it's doing everything she's doing. Then it starts to talk to her. Now, when I was talking to this woman, I thought, okay, it could be a case of schizophrenia. No,
Right.
her sister and her sister's boyfriend confirmed to me, no, they saw it too. They would see this entity, this doppelganger that looked like her, like moving around. And it would, dude, that would scare the crap out of me, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I can
Yeah.
handle that. I feel like, you know what I mean? That would be it, dude. I didn't see my own doppelganger. I would have had a problem with it. I always wondered if I could kick my own ass, but I mean, I would try. I don't know what I would do. I would freak out, dude. It was like, no. Like, that's the kind of cases you've heard of? You've had stuff like that, Eric?
I do remember one story that I was told by a guy. When he was a kid, about 7, 8 years old, he came downstairs one night into the kitchen, and there was an like late teenage 17, 18-year-old guy like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something in the kitchen. And the kid was like, "Who are you?" And the guy was like, "Who are you?" And the guy disappeared. And so the kid thought his house was haunted until he was 16, 17, 18. He was in the kitchen in the middle of the night making a peanut butter sandwich, and this little kid walked in. And he put two and two together that he somehow saw himself in the future, and then he saw himself from the past. And it just blew his, like, what, how does that work?
Yeah.
Because the little kid, it was the same interaction. Just now he's the older one in the situation, and the little kid, was him from the past. And he said after the little kid's like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And the kid disappeared instead of the adult version disappearing that time. So yeah, very weird. There's
Ghosts
another
of the
doppelganger
living.
story. Yeah, yeah. There's another doppelganger story I heard. It was a guy who he was going to school at a college out in the Midwest, I think in Utah, and he was out. It was a nice day. He was outside, kind of studying, on the lawn, kind of under a tree, and all of a sudden, this guy rides his bike by him, and he looks, and it's himself on his own bike, and he's like, at first he thought somebody stole his bicycle, but then he looked, and it was him, just in a different outfit. Well, a couple weeks later, he was riding his bike and saw himself sitting in the grass under this tree, looking at him riding by. So kind of the same thing of, he saw a future version of himself one time and then saw a past version of himself the other time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, let me expound upon that, because here's a story I got out of Washington, the state of Washington. It was Yakima. And this person claims they saw, I guess it would be considered a spectral Bigfoot. I just read this email, like, what is today, Sunday? It was I think it was Friday before the show. So I thought about telling it, but I'm gonna tell this one because I wanted to do a show about ghosts of the living. And this is really weird, and it involves cryptid aspects, but it also not just that, but it's like a ghost of the living type thing. He saw his brother standing next to a tree talking to what it appeared to be a Sasquatch-looking creature that they had around their property. And they had this around the property for a while. Like, he had been seeing since he was a kid. His dad was always like, oh, it's benign, it's not going to hurt you. And they came to the conclusion his dad didn't believe in it. He thought that him, his brothers, and his mom were all just full of crap. But what's weird is, though, he saw his brother, Jacob, like, talking to this creature. Then he goes inside the house, and his brother is inside, like, watching cartoons, like watching TV, and he's like, dude, what the heck, what was that? What did I just see? And so when he asked me that question I haven't even responded yet to it. I will. I'm gonna get to it. He's probably watching right now, going like, oh, thank you for that donation, Jesus Revolution. We appreciate that. But have you heard of anything like that, Eric? Like, where somebody sees a ghost of the living, especially interacting with something that is, not even supposed to exist in the first place, and then he walks inside and there's his brother, like watching cartoons. So he runs back to the door and he doesn't see it anymore. Odd, though, that he said his dogs, whenever this creature was around, they would flip out and bark and go crazy, and they were just laying there sleeping outside.
Yeah. I've never heard of anything like that with a creature. No.
Yeah. And like I said, I just got that one, and I thought, man, this one, I'm going to throw this one at Eric and see if he has.
Maybe that's the creature's way of luring the kid or calming him down, to making him feel comfortable because he's seeing, his brother there or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very weird thing. I mean, like,
Yeah.
You and I could probably talk all night. We could sit here and just go on and on and on and just talk and talk and talk. But, we get more people that actually, when we do it on the podcast, which is the show that we do, it goes on to like 15 different platforms, and we get like a bunch of different people. We get everybody that tunes in here, but then we get also thousands of people from so I think you and I should definitely do and we could do it for like a Thursday. What do you think, Anthony?
Oh, that's great. I mean,
yeah. And
he's
me
a
and him
great
could have
guest.
discussions. We could go in depth with some of this stuff. I think you have a lot of great material. Your podcast, the Unseen Paranormal podcast, with Eric Freeman Sims. I thank you for coming on, Eric.
Thanks for being such a great guest. I mean,
I just had a lot of questions.
Thank y'all for having me.
Oh yeah, of course. And it's been awesome, man. I mean, I wanted to have you on, but I wasn't going to be able to get you on and it's weird. Look, let me tell you. Here's a weird thing that happened. when I reached out to you about coming on the show, I was going to tell you, hey, I'm booked until like middle to late August. But if we could do something, then we could talk maybe and do a pre-record. And then Kirk Reed had something happen, which, by the way, Abnormal Investigations, his partner, Mike, was in the chat earlier. Say hi to Mike, everybody. But I was like, Kirk Reed ended up getting hit by a wrench, of all things, and losing some teeth, and it was terrible. And then me and you talked, and you were like, hey, I got something going on, but I can do it, And I said, well, you know what? I do the show again on Sunday. You just come on Sunday. And it worked out. It was amazing. It was awesome, and I really enjoyed talking to you. I enjoy talking to all my guests, but I had a great time talking.
Well, it's always good when you meet someone with like-mindedness in this community, and who's also very articulate and has a lot of information to speak about. And that's exactly what you are, and that's why it was such an honor to have you on our show. Because even though it was an accident, it was a perfect accident.
Well, it wasn't an accident. It was.
I mean, it was. Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have had him on until the end of August.
Yeah, it would have.
We hope Kirk Reed gets well so he can come on too. But I mean, it is what it is, and things happen, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have good people from the field in my life. And I definitely think you're doing good work, man. And
thank you.
I'm sorry that how you ended up getting into this. But it's really weird. You were 15, right?
14, yeah.
14. I was 15 when I had the thing with the dog man, it caused me a lot of sleepless nights. But if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be here before you talking, folks. And then, something unfortunate happened to you. A lot worse than what happened to me. But, I mean, it was, you lost your dad. But do you feel like, and this is the closing thing I'm going to ask, do you feel like it's brought you some answers? Have you gotten closer to what you feel is the truth, or do you feel more comfortable?
I do feel way more comfortable with knowing that there's something beyond us and after us, and that we go on to live a different existence. It's definitely comforted me in that with both my parents being gone, and I had a brother get killed a few years ago, and and so for me, it helps with the grief process. I've always been one of those people. The more, especially in situations like that, the more educated I am, the easier it is for me to deal with it, I guess. And kind of the same was true when I worked in the medical field, with all the death and dying, working in emergency medicine. Was the more knowledge I have,
more easier,
the better off I can deal with that stuff. Yeah, it's easier to accept things like that because I feel like I have the knowledge that. Yeah, this is just the beginning of our journey, and we go on to do other things.
Yeah.
Now, you said you were at the last conference. I was going to ask if you're going to be able to make it to the next one we're having coming up on Labor Day.
I'm going to look and try. I'm not going to make any promises. We're actually putting on our own expo in October here in Nashville, and so y'all know how much work it is.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I'm going to try.
So what kind of what do you got going on in Nashville? Tell us about what that is in October.
So it's called the Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo, and it's at the Nashville Fairgrounds on October 21st, 9 to 6, and it's $10 a ticket, 12 and under free. All the money is going to being split between two charities. One is a haunted historical location that needs help here in Middle Tennessee called Trousdale Place. And it was the former home of a governor, a really prominent governor in Tennessee back in the 1800s. Really pretty house. They're a nonprofit. They need help. Old houses take a lot of money to upkeep. It's a great place with a great history. The other charity is called Animal Rescue Corps, ARC, and they bust up puppy mills, and they help place all the dogs into no-kill shelters, have them adopted out.
Oh, cool.
Especially like local, like smaller counties that don't have animal control or don't have the budget to deal with things like that, they'll go in and help the local sheriff's department and things like that. So yeah, all the proceeds are going to those two charities. And we've got a whole lineup of speakers. We have two of my buddies, Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gadalori, who were on Ghost Hunters. They got a new show coming out in Canada right now called Haunted Discoveries. We've got Ronald Murphy's going to be a speaker.
I love him.
Yeah, and we've got all of our speakers are people who are out there doing the research and on the ground, boots on the ground. I was not going for pair celebrities or anything like that. I want people who are actually doing the work. And we've got booths still available if anybody wants to be a vendor. We still got some booths available, but yeah, we'll have over 80 vendors and a full day speaker talking about everything from cryptids to ghosts. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. And the other, how do people find you?
I am on all the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, under the Unseen Paranormal Podcast, and my show is everywhere, anywhere you listen to Paranormal Roundtable. You can find my show as well, Spotify, Apple. It's kind of everywhere. I just hit 130,000 downloads, so I'm happy about that.
Congratulations, man.
By the way,
Yeah, it's going really well.
the link to our guest's YouTube channel is posted in the live chat. It's the pinned comment on top, so go check it out. Give him a subscribe.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that being said, I was going to tell you what you were saying. When you said Middleton, you said Middleton, Tennessee, right?
Middle Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay.
So Tennessee is an interesting state because people refer to West Tennessee, which is like Memphis, Jackson. Middle Tennessee is Nashville, kind of metro Nashville area and all the small towns. And then we have East Tennessee, which is, I guess, technically Paris, LBL is kind of West Tennessee, the beginning of West Tennessee. But there's like divides with the mountains and the Cumberland Gap and things. I live about 15 minutes outside of Nashville.
And you had told me that you had actually gone through the OBL quite a bit, right?
Yeah, we go up there all the time.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
reason I
riding
was
Jeeps
asking
and
is
everything.
because Middleton, Tennessee, it's in Hardeman County. Yeah. That's crazy. I got a Dogman story out of there not too long ago. So it's crazy. Somebody was literally changing their tire and had a Dogman encounter. When you said that, I was like, Middleton, Tennessee? Because Middleton was where I'd gotten the story. But anyway.
Well, let's hope that Dogman doesn't go to that conference.
Well, anyway, if it does, you'll have enough ghosts to chase it off. So thank you for being on the show, Eric, and we'll talk again soon because I would like to do a record and do a series of conversations with you for our podcast.
Yeah,
so,
I'd love to have you on my show too.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I'd definitely come on and talk. I only do friends shows. I get people that ask me to come on the shows all the time. No offense to anybody out there, but I don't usually accept unless it's a friend. It's somebody that I know that I've actually talked to and worked with a little bit or something because I just don't trust people, man.
You're also so busy that you just don't have time to trust.
Yeah, and I don't have time, and I just don't have time, and I don't trust a lot of people because people like to take things and do editing and.
Oh yeah,
So I'm not into that, but thank you for coming on the show, man. We will talk again, dude, and you take care of yourself, Eric.
It was my pleasure. Thank y'all. Thanks everybody in the chat for all the kind comments. Y'all have a great night.
Yeah, and if you want to come to the conference, man, just come on.
All right. I will see what I can do.
All right, buddy. I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye. So that was Eric Freeman Sims. Great guy, great guest. Had a wonderful conversation with him. I'm a ghost guy anyway. People tell me all the time, like, oh, you're a Dogman guy. I'm like, I'm a Dogman guy. I'm a ghost guy.
I mean, yeah, you've had mostly ghost encounters, though. So
people tell me, oh, you see cryptids. When? I got all excited a couple years ago, and I called Ken and Nick Redford, and I was like, hey, I saw the chupacabra. And they were like, Nick's like, oh, yeah, saw one outside. And Ken's like, yeah, I saw one on the back of Abilene. I was like, okay, never mind. It's the blue dog. Not the most popular cryptid. It's just, and everybody knows now. I was excited. I thought I had seen my second cryptid. I guess I was wrong, And somebody said, well, you're seeing the cryptids all the time. I'm like, no, I'm not, lady. Okay, maybe you do. And I'm sorry, but if I don't eat this, I'm about to pass out. You know what it's like trying to go more than 4 hours without eating? It's freaking insane.
I don't know how you do it.
Oh, yeah. Hard. When you're a fat kid. You're like, back off, I'm starving.
And we haven't eaten either, so you can't even steal our food.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like you usually do.
Yeah.
I hope people actually believe that. Tell them your idea about the mall.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say,
Well, we have a friend that has a prank channel.
yeah, like we had this idea, like that. Well, is it like you taking our food or like no? The one I told him was like we'd be at the mall, and Wolf is like this huge person, and our friend with the prank channel, he's a bodybuilder. He's a big old dude too.
Eric Konevsky,
Yeah, Eric Konevsky.
Russian gangster.
Yeah. And like I would be sitting at the food court, like and like abusing Wolf in front of people, and like he would have like this beat wife syndrome, and like Eric wouldn't be defending him or anything, like he's scared too. So here's like this skinny guy just like abusing this big, huge like
Not letting
troll.
us eat.
Yeah, it would work too.
Not letting
'cause
them eat, taking their food. Like, give me
Anthony-
that. You don't need that food. That's my food. Look at you. You're fat. You're big, and
It would work because Anthony can eat all
I
that
need it.
food. So
You're skinny.
Well,
I mean, I'm
another
skinny.
one that
You're
me and
fat.
Eric talked about was like maybe having one of y'all act like you're the boss and just bossing us around, yelling at us, and like, don't make me slap you again.
Yeah.
You know, like we're at Lids.
Yeah.
Give me that hat. Yeah, I'm like, sir,
Yeah.
can you please get that hat? My
You
boss
wait till
is
we go home.
my boss is angry. Nowadays, though, somebody would probably call. There's a human slave trafficker
no, you're more
Yeah.
you're more likely to see someone pull out their phones and just start videoing
and
us.
video it. Yeah, but who knows? People are so weird, dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They might turn a blind eye to
Strain
it,
on a
too.
gnat,
Yeah,
and
it's awful
swallow a
that.
camel. No, I'm saying somebody like me, they'd be like calling on you or something. But if they saw it happening to a kid, they'd just be like, whatever.
Mm.
Because people are so backwards nowadays, dude. It's ridiculous. Folks, thank you for tuning in tonight. It's like almost 11 o'clock here, and I know that everybody's got to get up tomorrow, and we'd love to just sit here and talk all.
No, we could
Has
have.
anyone seen a Dogman or Bigfoot? Michelle, yeah, that's pretty much a lot of people here has seen them.
I mean, we could talk to Eric all night.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody I could talk to, but I could talk to all my guests all night. I mean, you know, we don't put.
We are really blessed to have such great guests that we've had on our shows, and well, actually, not just guests but friends that we've had on our show.
And somebody told me the other day, they sent me some snark. I'm sorry, but I read some of these and I just laugh. I think it's funny that the haters are so mad. They try to hate me so bad. They're just like, and then this person's like, you think you're really something special, don't you? And I said, you know why I think I'm special? Because God don't make junk. That's why. When that person says they didn't believe that God made them, I said, well, I feel sorry for you. We all got here through divine creation, you know. If you don't believe it, don't believe it. It's my right to believe that, and it's their right to not believe it. But they think that they're hurting me with their little snarky, talking crap. It's not like if you were ever my friend, like I would even care. Like, why do I care? I don't even know you. You just wanted me to know that you hate me, but you watch my show. For what? I mean, who's winning here? Who's winning?
I guess you have to know your enemy in order to hate on them.
Yeah, they got to study you, like Sun Tzu, you read some book I read when I was 17. Like, it's just, if you go back and you read Sun Tzu, it's just common sense. It's like, attack the enemy while he sleeps. Don't let him have food and water. Like, okay, yeah, it's very common sense stuff. But when you realize how stupid people are, then you think, oh, okay, this guy had to write a children's book about war.
My favorite is when weak appear strong and when strong appear weak.
When drunk and getting pulled over appear to be sober. Or you can start freaking out. I'm videoing you, Mr. Police Officer. I'm videoing you. Like who cares, dude? You know why I pulled you over? Because you're a fascist. I'm videoing you. Then they pull him out. Sir, you smell like a distillery. Stop hurting me. It's like those people that go out and literally antagonize police officers, trying to get a rise out of them so they could video them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like there's plenty of bad cops, but there's plenty of good cops too that you're just impeding on their job, and it's like it's just a hassle all around. People being turds once again.
Yeah. Anyway, Loki Loki's been playing around with that AI stuff. You be careful with that, dude. Okay. Some of the images that he came up with, one of them was Santa Claus. I'm just going to say this real quick.
Mhm.
The Santa Claus had like 6 fingers.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah, AI can't get
they always
fingers.
mess up the hands.
Why? Why is that?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like it's actually a lot better now, which is surprising. Like how
This was yesterday.
like how quickly.
Yesterday.
Well, yeah, but like you can do like a lot of AI images now where the hands are a lot better. But like
Like
if you
when-
if you have it make a AI generated video like there's a pizza commercial. It's like an AI generated pizza commercial. It looks like something straight out of hell. Like it's like I don't know. It's like a really 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 bad acid trip or something. Like the faces are distorted, the hands, everything. It's just it's awful. It's like
well,
demonic.
that's what's weird about
James Lewis. Look what he
AI.
just put.
is like they look normal but slightly off, and I like that's the thing. And
I don't know. I mean,
I'm going to say
I'm not
this.
putting my face in that AI crap. I mean, y'all have fun with that. I'm not
I'm
doing
not
that.
messing with it. Don't say y'all. I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna say this, and this is something that you don't realize though how quickly things learn. Okay, I have a lot of different types of animals. We have rabbits, we have guinea pigs, we have ferrets, we have a pig, we have cats, dogs, birds, fish, everything.
Scorp. Love you,
My
Scorp.
brother and scorpion. You know, we have all these different types of creatures, and let me tell you something, dude. They learn very quickly. When the pig was a baby, I watched it look at Beans, our little puppy, our golden doodle, and she just said, "Hey, this is what we do," and just went to the restroom, and he looked at it, and then next two minutes, he was doing the same thing on the same spot.
Yeah, I mean he's still learning. I mean he just
Well, they're only
started
6 months old. They're
Yeah.
not that old.
But
I
he
mean,
just
they were
he
born
started
in
jumping on
in
people
February.
because he saw Beans doing that.
Yeah. Now he tries to do it.
Yeah.
So monkey see, monkey do. But when you don't realize though, when with AI, the leap forward is going to be amazingly fast, and you're not going to even know it. I'm telling you right now, dude. Okay. I'm telling you, it's going to happen very quickly. One day it's going to be dumb, seem kind of like, dumb. And then it's going to be, pew. You watch. And it's going to happen quick, and it's going to be like boom, 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 and you're going to be shocked because it's not going to take much. A few little bits of trial and error, and we're going to be there. Skynet, yeah, exactly. D just said Skynet. So I'm just telling you, get ready because these things are going to move very quickly. And if people, and I've heard people say, well, if we have people who are, responsible. Are you kidding me? Have you seen the leaders that we have? How responsible are these people? Okay. And there are companies at the cutting edge of this, and it's going to happen either way. So AI is going to happen. It's the way of the future. There's nothing you can do really. But I would invest in something of AI just because it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Right? What do you think, Anthony?
It's the unfortunate future.
I mean, if you want to have, if there's an opportunity there that presents itself, and it's going to happen either way, then you might as well, I guess.
Capitalize on
Yeah.
it.
I mean, years ago, whenever the whole thing happened with Halliburton, I'm not going to get into a whole weird, whatever. If somebody were to have jumped on that stock, because everything's eventual, I mean, it's going to happen, But there's a lot of things I'd like to tell you, like to talk to you. I tell you what, come to the conference. We'll talk. Folks, thank you for everybody recently who's bought tickets. We've had an uptick in ticket sales. That's good. We're trying to hit a certain goal, and we're not there yet, but we're hoping that we'll get close. So if everybody would go to the conference, that'd be great. If you can't, I understand. Money's tight, everybody, whatever. But this is going to be once in a lifetime thing. I'm 90% sure I'm not going to do it again next year. It's just too much hassle, man. As much as I'd love to, I just got too many things going on.
Not only on us, but also on Ken. Like, he does a lot.
Ken has helped, been enormous help too. But Ken doesn't have to do a podcast.
That's true.
So, folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you once again for everybody who donated, everybody who's helped out in any way. The money's just going straight into the conference to try to get, to get it done. And this week, hopefully, I can sit down if I can have time to scratch my head, and I'll get all the Patreon people done so that y'all can get your swag. Thank you so much for tuning in, and good night. We really need outro music. And then it gets more quiet. How do you do that? Does it fade?
I mean, we can make. I can make it fade. I'd have to.
Oh, and don't
do all that
forget,
manually.
I don't know if I've announced this or not yet, but I am going to be making a rap song.
I don't think you have announced it.
No. Okay. I think my future self had told my past self that he was going to do it. I'm not for sure how that works, but it's a big time loop. Anyways, I am going to be trying to do that. I don't know. I'm not a dreamer. I'm a doer. And so if I say, hey, I'm going to do this, I might do it. I'm thinking about it. Now, if anybody's got any really like dope, super fly, stupid beats that want to chip in on that and see where it goes, or if you're into music and you can, you have some ideas, hit me up. Nothing, I don't want anything vulgar. All right.
Yeah, and we're going to probably
It's gotta be
use it
clean.
as the intro. So.
All right, folks. Thank you. We'll see you.